Hey, what's up, everyone? You're listening to Striking a Chord on TBK Radio, and this is Mad Manda. With me, as always, is my producer, Rich, and joining us today, our special guest, my buddy, Eric. Not going to give you his last name, just in case he doesn't want any online stalkers.
Gonna guarantee you won't have that problem, but
What's going on, Eric?
not much. Just got through a couple albums this weekend, so
Awesome.
as usual, I'm not going forwards though. I'm going backwards. I'm back in 1975.
So, fun fact about Eric, everyone. Eric is not your usual music fan. He listens to, I think the newest thing he listens to is probably Ben Folds, maybe, and the Dresden Dolls. Everything else he listens to is all old, which is fine. We're not here to judge. But so a little history for you. Eric and I met through a mutual friend back in high school. We went to different high schools. Eric went to an all-guy Catholic high school. I went to good old Chicago public school. And we bonded over our love for music. Different kinds of music, obviously.
Yeah,
but,
I don't even
music
know.
Nonetheless.
I don't even know how the bond is even relatable at this point. Like, I mean, if anybody asks me like bands, I always just say Rise Against. I don't even know if they're still around.
They are. They are. You're good on that one. As long as you stick with them, you're good. But yeah, luckily, I mean, our friendship has lasted 13 plus years, thanks to our love for music. So I'm glad you are joining us today for our feature segment later tonight, which is going to be vinyl. Eric is a collector of vinyl. I recently started, probably like last year, collecting vinyl, so my collection is small but growing. So we're going to talk about that and how Record Store Day has become a big thing, and just how vinyl in general has just made a huge comeback, and not just with the older generation, but people our age and younger as well. So that's really why Eric is here today. And of course, luckily he did a little bit of his homework, I think. So he has some tour announcements to share in with us on that coming up for our On the Road segment later.
Yeah, but that's all my weird stuff. So, but
that's fine.
But it's still relevant.
I might be I might be very appreciative of the weird stuff. Trust me.
Oh, yeah, I know. I listen to the favorite albums of all time, so I'm all aware, Rich.
Yes.
Eric's been keeping up with our episodes.
Yep.
All right, so to get started then, for our new music alerts, the first artist I have on tap for us tonight is Thomas Rhett, who, if you follow the mainstream country genre, he is somebody who is very well loved in the genre, for good reason. But within the last couple years, he can be a little hit or miss because he's got a really strong country voice. He comes from country royalty. His father is Rhett Akins, very well known in the 90s, if you follow the country genre. But lately, Thomas, he likes to incorporate his new influences like Bruno Mars and Justin Timberlake, and that's great, but like I said, it can be kind of a bit of a hit or miss. So he's got a new album coming out next month, and he released another new single off of it last Friday, so April 19th, and it is called Remember You Young. Great song, very beautiful. No backbeat, which is awesome. I don't think he's an artist who needs a backbeat. Unfortunately, he sometimes throws it in there, and I don't know. He thinks the artists these days, they think it sounds good. They think they need it. I don't know. Sometimes it works. It makes for a catchy song, but Thomas is a really great, strong songwriter and a strong singer, so he doesn't need it. And this is one of those songs that really shows you why he doesn't need it. It's just really well written. I'm not sure if he wrote this one himself or not. I believe he did, but I'm not 100% sure, so you'd have to check on that. But yeah, Remember You Young. It's just a great song. Has a very nostalgic feeling to it. about looking back on your memories of being young, with your buddies, your wife, your kids, whatever. It's the Thomas Rhett that I wish we could really see more of, and I think other people often do too. It's songs like this that pop up every so often on his albums that remind you of his country roots, what he's capable of. So I think that's why the real country fans kind of stick around and still follow him. That's why we haven't given up on him just yet. And then next up we have Brantley Gilbert. He released a new song off of what I'm assuming is going to be his upcoming album. So Big Machine label group had a really big New Music Friday last week. Like I said, Thomas Rhett, Brantley Gilbert, Delta Ray, and one more. But so Brantley Gilbert's new song is called Hayesville, and it's no coincidence that it was released the day before 420, let me tell you. It features Lucas Nelson and Colt Ford, and there's a very smidge of Willie Nelson at the very end of the song. He literally closes the song out and he just sings one line. That's his role on the song.
That's a paycheck.
Yeah, right? So it's definitely Brantley's attempt at a rap song. Like I said, he's celebrating 420. So it's not what I would call a country song. I don't think it's going to be marketed as a country song. I think it's just meant to be fun. But again, Brantley doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink anymore. So to me, it's kind of like, all right, I get it, but I don't. Why are you wasting your time? But it's not a bad song. So I just don't get why he's going in this direction. But if you take it for what it is, it's fine. And then another Big Machine artist, Delta Ray. So they're a group, and their single Heart Won't Break. It's really a good song. Not sure why they think they need that backbeat again. So they're definitely, this was advertised or promoted, marketed, whatever, by Scott Borchetta from Big Machine as the new beginning of Delta Ray, this new direction that they're going in. I don't understand it. The songwriting is really great. I would love to hear this song stripped down. I love the idea behind the lyrics. I'm just not a big fan of the backbeat. It doesn't make it a bad song. It just, I don't think it's needed, But, and then we have Rodney Atkins, who is also well known in the country genre. He released a new song off of his upcoming album, which I think it either comes out this week or next month. I'm not 100% sure on that. This song is called Thank God for You, and it's track 4 on the upcoming album. The album is called Caught Up in the Country. So the title track of this album, Caught Up in the Country, when it was first released, it's a catchy song. It really grabs you with the hook and the beat. But again, it's got that funky backbeat to it that's not needed. I don't understand why good country artists with traditional country voices are using this backbeat in their music. They don't need it.
Because the kids like it, Amanda.
The kids are wrong.
To anyone out there listening, to anyone out there who loves listening to a backbeat, you're not wrong. Just letting you guys know.
You are wrong, especially when it's country music. So this new song it's a great upbeat song. It's really his awesome vocals and just the instruments. So there's no backbeat. It takes you back to what he's really good at and what he's known for. If fans will remember him for Take a Back Road, These Are My People, Watching You, If You're Going Through Hell. Those are the songs that really put him on the map. And I always thought his vocals kind of had a bit of a Tim McGraw sound to them, at first listen. That's just my take. But yeah, so I definitely recommend listening to Thank God for You. And then another artist that released new music last week, new artist, up and coming, was this new trio in country music, Leaving Austin. They released their Southern Gold EP, and they've got great melodies. It's still that new country sound, but not as heavy. They don't rely as heavily on the backbeat, which is great. And so they've got strong voices, kind of like a mix of Dan and Shay meets Love and Theft with a bit of Rascal Flatts, maybe. So definitely a group you're going to want to keep your eye on. I recommend the whole EP is really great. Speaking of Love and Theft, I know Richard loves them.
I do.
They released a new single called Gimme Tonight. And so I think from the beginning, when you hear it, it's clear that they're trying to stay relevant with today's country sound, but in their own way. And so it's not a bad song. It's pretty good. But personally, I would like to see them go back to what first made them huge with Angel Eyes, because that was one of the best country songs of the 2000s. And I'd hate to see them fall victim to less than what they're capable of doing.
Wow, just completely skipped over the first album there, didn't we? Okay, good to know.
Well, because the big album was the one that Angel Eyes was off of.
I prefer the first album more, but whatever.
In terms of mainstream, like that's what put them on the
map.
Yeah, no. That's what people know them for. But overall, though, Gimme Tonight, it's not a bad song. It's just, you definitely get the feeling that they've kind of lost their sense of self a little bit, and they're struggling to remain relevant and still kind of find their way. So hopefully they'll kind of figure that out. High Valley, which people will remember for their 2016 breakthrough album, Dear Life, which was great. One of the best albums of that year. They released a new song. They're a duo, in case anyone was wondering, from Canada. They released a new song called Single Man, and they have great, strong voices, traditional sound with a little bit of a twist. Definitely this one is a sweet song. I really hope it gets the airplay it deserves. It's got the makings of a #1 single. So hopefully we'll hear more new stuff from those guys soon. And then, so there's another up-and-coming artist, Spencer Crandall, who released a full album called More. I don't know if it was released on Friday or earlier than that, but I discovered it on Friday. And so he's another one of these new artists, these younger guys who's got the talent, but he thinks he needs the backbeat, and he doesn't. This is the theme this week, okay, guys? The backbeat. You don't need it.
It's like a backbeat rant.
It drives me, like, I get sometimes it works and it's catchy, whatever, but these guys in country music, you just don't need it. Rely more on the guitars and the drums, the piano, anything but the friggin' computer. So this, with his voice and his style, his choice of style of music, it feels a bit like boy band country, even though it's just one guy. If you listen to it, you'll kind of get what I'm saying with the sound. It's not a bad thing. It's just that's the vibe I pick up on. The song All We Got is a catchy song, but it definitely has that EDM kind of feel to it, like almost like an Avicii kind of thing. Totally a song I can hear being played in clubs this summer. A song that you would, jam if you're driving around your car stereo in the middle of summer or at night with the windows rolled down. Definitely kind of like that vibe to it. And then Honey County, all-female country trio. Their EP, High on the Radio, released on Friday. They have such a great sound to them. Very fresh, great, sweet voices, super talented. Can totally hear every song on this EP being played on country radio. There's no reason for it not to be. The song that really stuck out to me is Love Someone, and it'll like cut right through your heart. For me, it felt like a modern day version of Can't Make You Love Me by Bonnie Raitt because of the lyrics. Again, just such a great song. Definitely recommend you listening to that. I don't care if you like country music or not, go listen to that song. So it's their brand of country music, like it's that kind that thrives on when it knows what's good for itself. Like it knows when to take itself seriously and when not to. It relies heavily on the songwriting, which it definitely has a lot of quality songwriting. So I definitely recommend checking out that EP. And then Parmalee, who they're a great group, country group. Again, one of those groups who seem to have lost their sound a little bit and who are kind of struggling to find it. So they released a cover of Dean Lewis's song Be Alright. It actually makes for a great country song. and they do a good job with it. So I was pleased with that. I didn't think it really needed a cover, but again, doesn't hurt it. Country music has a long history of taking pop songs and making them great country songs. So this is just another example of that to me. And then lastly on our new music alerts, Kelsey Lamb, Girl at the Bar. Such a beautiful voice. Heartbreaking storytelling, let me tell you. Has so much potential to go far, in my opinion, and someone you could relate to in a Kelsey Ballerini or Taylor Swift kind of way. So all you ladies who are looking for heartbreak songs to relate to, go listen to Kelsey Lamb, Girl at the Bar. I definitely recommend her. Eric, I don't know if you listened to any new music this week.
I listened to that song you sent me.
Which one?
The one that starts with "Grandma smelled like cigarettes and perfume" or something.
What? I do not remember sending you a song that starts like that.
Yes, you did. It was the artist you recommended me yesterday. I don't have it in front of me.
Oh God, you're gonna make me go through my messages?
No, you don't have to. It's fine.
Grandma smelled like cigarette. I have no idea what that could be.
It was mother. Somebody did. I don't remember which family member it was, but it was somebody.
Oh my goodness! I sent this to you yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh boy, hang on.
So for anybody out there who, while she
here.
searches for that, I just want to point out Madonna released a new song.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Age 60 and still killing it, and she's performing it on MTV. Just want to also add that to this.
I didn't know MTV was doing live performances.
Yeah, but it's Madonna.
I didn't know MTV was doing music.
That's what I thought too. And Beyonce released a new song this week as well.
Did I send it to you via text message?
No, you sent it to me on Facebook, I think.
Okay, then I definitely don't remember.
I don't remember the artist's name. It was like Tierra or something.
Oh, yes. So, okay. Oh. Okay, yes. So that's a new video.
And what's the first word of the song? Or the first sentence? That's what it is.
Okay, now I remember what you're talking about. But the way you said it was made it sound like a goofy song, and it's not a goofy song. That's her new acoustic video that she just released on Friday.
Okay. So yes, I did listen to it. I am not a country fan in general, but I guess I do like Bob Dylan, so I do have a little piece of me that's creeping in there. It was actually pretty good.
Okay, yes. So in the video, so they added a violin, or I don't know if it's a violin or a fiddle, but it adds something a little extra special to the video, and the whole thing is just really great. It's stripped down, and I mean lyrically, it just tells a great story. It's she was inspired to write it with another songwriter, because so many people on social media nowadays, people only see other people's highlight reels, and I mean, it gets depressing because you see other people's highlight reels, and then you think, oh my God, my life's not like this, and you start comparing your behind the scenes to somebody else's highlight reels, and it gets depressing. And so that's how she was inspired by it, by just trying to, as much as we like to post the best of the best on Instagram and social media in general, it's really about trying to keep things real. What?
Speak for yourself.
I don't. I mean, I've gotten to the point where it really people need to understand that you need to keep things real with people. It's not all rainbows and sunshine all the time. So yeah.
Actually, the other thing I will say about that song is that the strings are in there, but it flows well. Sometimes you get songs where the strings become overpowering of the rest of the music. It kind of blends very nicely, because you would think the strings would eventually dominate the acoustic guitar, but it really doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with that. It definitely has a very nice flow to it.
Yep.
And so, fun fact: her boyfriend is a filmmaker. He totally directed, filmed the whole thing, and she premiered it exclusively on CMT.com. And so the song itself isn't even out yet. they strictly did a video for it, only available on CMT. But you can check it out on CMT.com. You can also check it out on Striking and Chord's Facebook page, and I believe on TBK Magazine's Facebook page as well.
And with the interview as well. So you can actually watch the video and listen to the interview after.
Yeah, so when the interview goes up, our bonus episode...
The interview is already up at this point.
I haven't seen it. I didn't get that notification.
Hold on. We're gonna break.
How am I finding out about this?
Hold on. We're gonna break. We're gonna break kayfabe. This show goes up on Monday, so by now the interview's up.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I apologize, guys. But yeah, cow. So listen to the interview, watch the music video for "My Truth" by Tiara. Definitely recommend that. But I'm glad you liked it, Eric.
Yeah, and that's actually high praise from me.
Yes, it is actually. So before I forget, so my Amanda's pick of the week is in honor of Eric being on the show. I chose a older song, and the reason why was because I was listening to a song by OAR called "Follow Me, Follow You," I believe, and right before he gets to the chorus, there's I don't know if it's called the bridge or not, but it's right before the chorus. It's got a little bit of a Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill vibe to it, and it immediately made me think of that song, of course. And so I haven't heard that song in a long time. I was first introduced to that song, believe it or not, when I was in college, my freshman or sophomore year. Love that. That's actually one of my favorite songs it's become. So I went back and listened to it, and I've been listening to it all week. So that's my pick of the week. Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill. If you haven't listened to it, I recommend listening to it. Give it a shot. So the way it was kind of introduced to me was as a spiritual song. I don't want to say necessarily religious because I guess you'd have to really dig into the lyrics to fully understand what it's about. But yeah, from what I understand, it's kind of like a spiritual song. But I mean, I enjoy it. Is that an older song that you like, Eric?
Well, first of all, "Follow Me, Follow You" might be a cover of. Is that the cover of Genesis? Because that's a Genesis song, which is also Peter Gabriel is in Genesis. So I'm wondering if it's. Is it
no,
like a? Oh, it's not.
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's a totally different song.
Okay. No, I'm not a huge prog rock guy, but I've heard Salisbury Hill. It's okay.
Okay, but so it's not really a prog rock song. It's more of like a...
Yeah, it is. It's more of a singer-songwriter. You're right.
Yeah. I thought for sure that you would have appreciated that one. It being older and all.
Yeah, I was gonna... And as usual, we're on two totally different wavelengths.
What have you been listening to this week?
This week, I am back on the Todd Rundgren roller coaster.
Okay, not somebody I'm familiar with.
You would know songs if you heard them. He's got "I Saw the Light," "Hello, It's Me," "Bang on the Drum All Day."
Oh, "Bang on the Drum All Day." I just want to...
"I Don't Want to Work, I Just Want to Bang."
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's who does that song?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Duh.
That song's used in a lot of memes and one-liners and stuff.
Yeah, no, he goes all over. I mean, the album that I'm re-listening to, I listened to it a long time ago, but it'll be on when we go over albums. It's Something Anything, and it's basically 25 songs on two CDs. It sounds like the Whose Line Is It Anyway thing. It's 64 songs on 18 CDs.
Oh my God.
No. It's a joke they used to have on Whose Line, where they used to make it up.
You can tell I don't really watch that show either.
There was a TV show that did improv that was hosted by Drew. No, I'm good.
I know what the show is. I just never really watched it.
But yeah, no, I mean it's just it's a pop mess. I mean, you don't hear music like that anymore. He legitimately just sat down and made a pop album, and then that's the last one he ever made. He had three successful singles on it, and then after that he's I could write these songs in my sleep, and he just went into a totally different direction because he didn't want to just get stuck in one songwriting mode. So, but that album it's a classic. You just have to. There's some goofy stuff on it. He's got songs about Vikings and there's some weird stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, at least now I can put a name to the song. Bang on the drum all day.
There you go. I'm glad that's all you got out of that entire dissertation I just gave.
Yeah, basically. I'm just messing with you.
I know.
So our next segment then is artists to be on the lookout for. And I usually have 3, but I narrowed it down to 2 this week. So the first one is John Gurney, who, for fans of reality television, he and his girlfriend Shannon Ford were on season 1 of Very Cavallari, which is the Kristen Cavallari show. She was on Laguna Beach and The Hills back in the day. And she's married to former Chicago Bears player Jay Cutler. And they used to live in Chicago. They moved to Nashville, which was a big part of why I started watching Very Cavallari last season. So John Gurney is a singer-songwriter, and he's really talented. I got a chance to see him over the winter, and he opened, I think it was in December, he opened for Lee Brice. Again, Joe's Live in Rosemont, for anyone who's familiar with the Chicagoland area. So he's got a few songs that he's released so far. Home with Her, That's How You Got It, I Can't Take You Anywhere, and Fairy Tale Dress. Fairy Tale Dress is, when it comes to the songwriting, probably the best song he has, because it really tells a beautiful story, and it's got that like Rascal Flatts, Sarah Beth kind of feel to it, or I believe Jason Michael Carroll, I can't think of the name of the song, but it was back in the early 2000s, I believe. I can't think of the name of the song. It was a very sad song. But yeah, it's got that kind of a feel to it, only it's not as sad. It's just the way that the story telling is. And then the other songs he has are very good. They're very upbeat. If you get the chance to see him just acoustic, he does these songs. They're actually a little bit better, not to take away from the full band versions that he does, but the acoustic, like the stripped down acoustic version, really changes them up a little bit, and really you get to see how strong like his vocals are, and you kind of get a little bit better feel of the songwriting aspect with him. So his girlfriend Shannon is she's constantly on Instagram, so if you follow her, you'll get to see John as well. She posts a lot of great stuff actually in her Instagram feed about home decor and fashion, beauty tips, travel hacks, all that stuff. So if you're into that, she's definitely someone that you're going to want to follow as well. And I mean, she's obviously, being the girlfriend of a Nashville singer-songwriter, she's friends with other artists and singer-songwriters in the country music scene as well. So they're definitely a fun couple to follow on social media. And like I said, he's talented. He was one of my 2019 artists to watch for this year. So I think you're definitely gonna want to keep your eye on him. And then our other artist to be on the lookout for is one of our song suffragettes, because we love our song suffragettes, Kaylee Shore. She's so amazing. Her voice, her songwriting, her personality that shines through on her social media, just really like, she's just an overall like, and I say this like I know her personally, and I interviewed her last year, but she's just like, that's how transparent she is on her social media. Like, she wants her fans to get to see her and get to know her as best as they can. So she's very open about herself in every way on social media. So she has 3 EPs, the most recent being Awake, which was released last year. One of the best EPs, I thought, of the year. And she's just really got a fresh voice with a unique style. She's a little bit of everything, and you never quite know what you're going to get with her. She loves a variety of music, and it's really reflected in her songs. So she loves like grunge and alternative rock, and you hear that reflected. She loves her pop punk. You hear that reflected. She loves her country that she grew up on, Dixie Chicks and Sarah Evans and Keith Urban and all that stuff. So she really has a lot to offer. Fight Like a Girl was her first, I believe, really big hit. and it's just become such an anthem for females everywhere. Just the story behind the song, she was told when she moved to Nashville, she was told by a record label that they couldn't sign her because they already had a female artist on their roster. Like, really? You can't sign more than one female artist? So that just ignited a whole, like, it ignited the fire within her. And she's one of the co-anchors for Song Suffragettes, which has been doing great things for women in country music in Nashville specifically. And yeah, I can't say enough good things about her and Song Suffragettes. So Kaylee Shore specifically, her sound, she's kind of got like Michelle Branch mixed with Avril Lavigne, Taylor Swift, Hayley Williams from Paramore, sprinkled with a little bit of TLC, because she does those hip hop rhymes, and she's really good at them. And you can hear a little bit of it on a couple of her songs on her EPs. And then I believe she just finished recording her first full album, which is super exciting. She's been teasing clips of new songs on her Instagram and playing them at the Song Suffragette rounds. So definitely cannot wait to hear when her new music is going to be released. So those are my two artists for you guys to keep a lookout for. And then moving on to our On the Road segment. So Eric, I'll go ahead and let you start with us. What tours or festivals are on your radar right now?
Well, they're all out of my price range. At least most of them. Van Morrison's playing tonight, so that bucket list is still not fulfilled. Because, I tried to get tickets to Chicago Theater that was sold out in like 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
It's just frustrating. You know, you get on these things and just the whole concert's bought up before you even get a seat.
Yeah, unfortunately, we can thank the scalpers for that.
Yep. So June and July, Steve Miller Band is all over the place in Illinois. Okay. I'm not going to write down all the cities because there was like 3 or 4. July 11th, you have Hart and Sheryl Crow, which is kind of a unique pairing.
I love Hart, and I like Sheryl Crow too.
Yeah, it's at Hollywood Casino Amphitheater in Tinley, so that's actually a really nice venue too.
Interesting. And isn't somebody else playing with them? I remember.
Yeah, it's like a triple header, but I didn't know the other one.
I can't remember who it was, and I was just telling somebody about it not that long ago.
Yeah, because it was like Hart featuring Sheryl Crow, and I'm like,
interesting.
Featuring? Like it's like she's opening.
Yeah.
It's with Elle King, I believe.
No. No, I feel like there was somebody bigger.
There's like 27.
Not bigger, but like as big as Hart.
It's Hart, Sheryl Crow, and Elle King.
Oh. Huh. I could have sworn there was somebody else.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, Joan Jett's okay. Joan Jett's supposed to join the tour at some point.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
But they don't say when.
Of course not.
because you just have to go to every show.
Yeah.
June 11th, Paul McCartney will be in Moline, Illinois.
Yeah, that'll cost you a kidney or two.
Yeah, and that I'm probably going to that, and that's probably my last concert of this year because I put myself. No, I mean I'm on a music budget because otherwise I just get out of control.
Yeah, I hear that.
But that one I got to go to because you never know. This could be the last hurrah. Plus he's got a whole new album that came out this year, so at least 4 or 5 songs will be changed on. He usually rotates like 6 or 7 songs of set list, so it's worth it.
Okay.
August 9th, Queen's at the United Center. I think you guys already did that one.
I don't remember.
Queen with Adam Lambert. That will undoubtedly be sold out.
He's still playing with them?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
July 31st at Northerly Island, Spoon. That one I'm actually might go to.
Is that with Beck and Cake? Or not Cake, but Cage the Elephant?
I don't remember seeing... I mean, I was on Spoon's website, so I don't know if they were advertising the other bands, but...
I think we mentioned that last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little too indie art rock for me.
Really?
Yeah.
That was my reaction as well.
But Ed agreed with me, so it's okay.
Really?
But they have a good backbeat.
Oh God, with the backbeat. Nice little dig there.
Yep. And then Ravinia, August 10th and 11th. You've got Chicago. You can't go wrong there.
Yeah, I agree.
And then September 1st and September 2nd at Ravinia, you got Steely Dan, obviously minus Walter Becker, rest in peace. But still awesome show. The just overall musicianship when you actually play when you play piano and you have to actually figure out what these artists are trying to do. Like Steely Dan has chords that don't make sense, and you're trying to convert them your hand is just in this claw position. And it just becomes frustrating to play. I think that's everything on my list.
Okay, so not bad, especially if you're a fan of the older generation's music.
Or you're live in the current modern generation and just choose to listen to that music.
That as well. So what popped up on my feed this week for tours and festivals was Live with Bush and Our Lady Peace. So that's a big throwback to the 90s. I love Bush. I like Gavin Rossdale as a singer, but Team Gwen in that retrospect. And then I liked Live and Our Lady Peace in the 90s as well. So I think a lot of people will probably come out to that tour. And then 311 and the Dirty Heads are touring together. I was never a 311 fan, and I have no idea who the Dirty Heads are. But if that's your thing, cool. I hope you have fun. And then Mary J. Blige and Nas are touring together. I'm not going to talk any further about Nas because it's not going to beat that dead horse anymore.
It wasn't or there was even a horse to be beaten, but okay. I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, he released a song that he claims is country, and it's not, and it's just caused a whole huge controversy. And
does it have a backbeat?
Oh wait, this is not. You know what? Hang on, because I don't know if it's the same artist or not. So the one who I was just referring to was Lil Nas X, who Mary J. Blige is touring with, is Nas. Not sure if they're the same artist or not, and I'm probably going to get some hate mail for that, for not knowing the difference.
I'm not the villain this week.
What?
I'm not the villain this week. Woohoo!
I'm sorry, guys. Hip hop and rap is not my thing, so I apologize. I'm pretty sure they're not the same person, so you just disregard that part. Rich, do you have any new tours that came out this week?
It's not a tour, but
you're excited for?
It's not a tour, but someone sent me a music festival.
Uh-oh.
It's October 11th through the 13th in Manchester, Tennessee.
Oh, my brother was just telling me about that.
Yeah, no, after last week's episode, the three headliners are Lynyrd Skynyrd, Def Leppard, and Guns N' Roses. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but other than that...
No, I disagree. This is a pretty decent lineup.
There's one day that's worth going for, and then the rest, other than the headliners, there's it's not worth going.
I completely disagree with you.
Oh, of course you do.
Yeah, no, I mean, Slayer, Megadeth, Seether, that's Friday. Black Label Society, Blackstone Cherry, the Cadillac 3.
Yep.
And Saturday, ZZ Top, Ghost, Mastodon, Cheap Trick. I'm 100% there. And then Sunday, besides Guns N' Roses, Deftones, Coheed and Cambria, Lamb of God, Alter Bridge, Skillet.
See, I can't do the Lamb of God, Slayer, Mastodon. I can't do those bands. I'm not a death metal person. And I apologize for anyone listening who doesn't think they're death metal. Send your hate mail to striking.
Because I'm one of those people who doesn't think it's hate metal or death metal, but sure, I'll sing hate mail. I'm 100% behind that.
I mean, what else? What is it? Just plain metal? Thrash metal?
I don't know the terminology. I just put it under metal.
Okay, then.
Death metal is a band called Nursing Home Panty Raid. This is a real band, and all they do is... That's it.
Jesus. That's not even music.
No, but that's what I call death metal.
Oh. I thought you were talking about like an actual...
No, that is an actual band name, but that is a death metal band, because all they do is scream.
Oh. Yeah, no, death metal was never my thing. I know it was never Eric's thing.
No, literally as a kid, like I thought Aerosmith was hard.
Oh, really?
So I was like, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Are you
As a kid, I've expanded.
As an adult, he had bangs in the
Thank
old
God.
diamond. What?
As an adult, what?
He had bangs in the old diamond. I get it.
I think Eric likes Neil Diamond.
That's why I
It's
said
all right.
I know my mom loves Neil Diamond. So then I believe we're good to go for moving on to our feature segment. I feel like that went by really fast.
it did.
It usually doesn't. I'm surprised. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Thought you were going to. So our feature segment this week, like I was saying, is we're just going to be talking vinyl collecting and how it's made a huge comeback and Record Store Day and the vinyl albums that we collect and why we chose these specific albums versus just whatever we can find, I guess. So I'll go ahead and let Eric start with us.
Mine's No, I mean, what made vinyl come back?
Or what interested you in vinyl to start collecting?
I remember the first record store I went to was totally by an accident. Like, I literally thought that this was just like a place where you could buy CDs. And I was just walking around, and I think it was just like when you get the original CD, you've got everything's a little bit more informal, I guess. Like, when you pick up like an album, like I remember the first album I literally picked up because they had like a whole little Paul McCartney section, of course, was Band on the Run, and you just pick it up, and it's like you slide out the insert, and like all the lyrics are printed nicely inside, and it just there's just something more like homely to it.
Presentation
is important, but then when you actually get the album and you play, I mean, I didn't have a record player. I just bought this thing, and I didn't even know what I was gonna do with it. I'm just like, wow, this is a really old Paul record. I'm just gonna buy this.
Just look at it.
Yeah, I'll just stare at this. And I took it home to my parents' house and played it on their thing, and just the sound is different. I don't care what anybody says. I've brought friends over here and they listen to albums, and that doesn't sound like anything. It is distinctly clearer. There are actual records where there are things that I can pick up that I cannot clearly make out on a CD.
Okay, I believe that.
And it's just a softer pitch, but everything just is more. I don't know. It's not compressed as much. Like, it seems like when everything on a CD is kind of like harsher. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I also think there's just something special about a vinyl album, like you said, like presentation for sure. And then I don't want to necessarily say like it just makes you seem cooler to say, oh yeah, I have that on vinyl, but like it makes you feel like you're a part of something special in a way. Because there used to not be that many people that collected vinyl, whereas now obviously it's coming back, and so there are a lot more. But it also makes you feel like an even bigger fan than what you are because you have the album on vinyl.
Yeah, and I mean, for somebody that has, in a lot of cases, when you're like me and you're in a hot tub time machine half the time, there's some things you can't even get on CD.
Right.
Like these Todd Rundgren albums, I can't get these anywhere. You can get them on iTunes, but it's, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of digital either.
I believe that.
I'm not a huge fan of Skype either. It took me 20 minutes to figure that out.
We appreciate the effort.
No, it's fine. I was just laughing trying to download this. I should be able to do this, but but anyway, off topic again. But yeah, there is something about the overall presentation. I mean, for me, when I first started buying albums, it was my favorite artist, and then eventually you start to. Generally, the pricing is a little bit more
higher. Yeah.
It's definitely higher, so it is more of a commitment. But you just find albums that you connect with better, and you end up getting those on vinyl. Like, I have tons of Elton John stuff, but I don't buy every single Elton John album on vinyl because it gets too costly.
Yeah, and I agree with that. For me, especially, like, when I decided I wanted to start collecting vinyl, it started with my favorite albums by my favorite bands, or classic albums by bands that I enjoyed from specifically the 90s and early 2000s, because that was the era that I favored the most. So that's really how I kind of dug into vinyl. Was I started with albums that I had a deeper connection to. Like for me, Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory is one of my favorite albums. So that's an album I felt like I needed to get on vinyl, and I did. Lifehouse, their first album, No Name Face, probably my favorite album of all time, next to Matchbox 20, Yourself or Someone Like You. I have both of those albums on vinyl because it just means they mean a little more to me than other albums. And then, Goo Goo Dolls, another band who, one of my favorites. So I have 3 of their albums. 2 of them are older. One, Dizzy Up the Girl, because it's an iconic album. The other one is Superstar Car Wash. And then the third one, Boxes, which was their last studio album. Newer, but a great album nonetheless. And I also got it for a really great deal. But yeah, so that's kind of why I chose those albums on vinyl. Gin Blossoms, one of my favorite bands from the 90s. Their newest album, Mixed Reality, that was actually given to me at a show. So that was kind of special.
That's cool.
And then Green Day, Dookie, because as one of my favorite pop punk bands and one of my favorite albums by them, and just a classic album in general from that era, I felt like it was important to have that on vinyl. So I definitely see what you're saying in that aspect.
Yeah, and I mean for mine, I mean the other thing you have to be a little more cognizant of with vinyl is where you're getting it from and who you're getting it from, especially if you're getting an older album. Mm-hmm. Because you can you can go to a record store, if you're not going to bother looking at it, you can bring it home and your record's not going to play. So.
Yeah, that's the risk you take when you go to an actual record store.
Yeah, I mean, but there are higher quality. I mean, when we get into more of the record store day stuff and just in general buying and where to go to get things, we can probably talk more about that. But there are higher quality places that you've got some places that are open that'll just literally take anybody's records and just resell them. But you do have some higher quality places that I've been to that. They're legitimately, all of them are in, all the covers, they don't take everything back. All the covers are in good condition and the records themselves don't have scratches. So you just kind of have to feel your way around. It's a very confusing hobby.
It is. It's not for the casual music fan at all. So Amazon sells vinyl albums now. And if you're a Prime member, most of the time they're on Prime, and they're not super expensive, I've noticed. I hate to be that person, but that's where I've gotten all but one of my albums on vinyl.
That takes away a lot of the fun, though.
But you know what? So it's because I can't easily get to a lot of the record stores that I would like to go to. In Chicago, a lot of the best ones are downtown or on the north side. And or they're out in the suburbs. Like, there's not many where I'm, like, in my area where I live. There's one around the corner for me, maybe, but it has mostly 80s and earlier. There's nothing 90s or later. So that for me was kind of a turnoff because I'm specifically focusing on collecting vinyl from the 90s and 2000s.
Give it 5 years, 90s music will show up in there.
I hope so. I don't know if I want to wait 5 years. So Eric, where are some of your favorite stores in the Chicagoland area to shop for vinyl?
Well, to your point, I've used Amazon. I think as long as you get it through Amazon, you're in pretty good hands.
Right.
I did order one. You've got the people that are just on there with their individual websites, and this guy packaged this like an idiot. I mean, literally, the album was just like in a box, and the left. I mean, you can take this hobby as far as you want to go, but I mean, like the left upper corner was like completely folded over.
Oh no!
And I just looked at him like, ugh. And you try to. I mean, he said it was in near mint condition, and I'm like, this is not near mint. Well, that's the definition of it. I'm like, oh god, like, as far as as conditioning goes, you can really get into. You really have to start to know your record stores. And when they say like Reckless Records, I order from online a lot.
I have heard good things about Reckless Records.
It is good. You can search their entire catalog online.
Oh, really? That I didn't know.
They have I shouldn't say their entire catalog. I've been in there once. I didn't catalog the entire the entire store when I was in there. But the conditions for the most part are pretty darn good. I mean, when they say near mint, I mean, most of the time they're like, if it's not a super brand name artist or it's a rare release or something, it's like $7-8, and that's
not bad.
And it's barely touched. And very good is, it's the jacket's a little more beat up, but the record plays fine. I've never bought anything lower than very good.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
They do have like all these other ones like Fair Plus Plus and all this other stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no, I've been down that road before. But I've had nothing but good stuff to say about them. They ship all the albums in nice mailers and their inside jackets and everything else. So it's
okay. Good to know.
I've used Beverly Records in Chicago, which is South Side. They have everything under the sun. I mean,
really?
They've been open since like the 60s.
Yeah.
So they're your classic Old Town record store, but they literally have so much stuff that they don't know what they have. It's pretty well organized, but like you'll go in there to look for an album, and like when my first trip there, I went to go get Wings at the Speed of Sound, and they literally have like 30 something copies of it.
Oh wow!
And like 15 of them are beat to hell. So you really have to take your time.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's family owned. They do get some new stuff in. They do participate in Record Store Day. That's where I used to go up until when I moved up north now, so I'm not around there anymore. And then this year I went to Record Wonderland, which is in Roselle. I actually just went there this weekend. Really nice place. Went there for Record Store Day too, and of course didn't get my Elton John album because they only had 2 copies. And
oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, that's part of Record Store Day, is waking up early and standing in line. But everything there is really nice, really nicely organized. The guys will help you find stuff. All the albums are in jackets. I bought 4 albums, and they all look great. I mean, I haven't listened to all 4 of them yet, but really, really nice, kind of a step above Beverly, in my opinion, just because you can tell they're not taking everything back. They're just buying what they think is going to sell or what's in good condition. So,
okay.
And actually, if you go on recordstoreday.com, you can do a zip code search, and they'll basically tell you all the stores that participated in Record Store Day, but it also tells you where all these places are located too, which is nice.
That's awesome. That I did not know. I'm going definitely to have to check that out.
Yep. And that's how I found this place, because I was like, I don't have a record store anymore, and so I was kind of freaking out.
Yeah, I didn't know you moved up north.
Yeah, it was last year. So yeah, I'm in a totally different neighborhood, but nice place.
Oh, I guess that's a conversation for off of the air, but
yeah, let's talk about my personal life while we're on the air too.
So since we keep mentioning it, Record Store Day, go ahead and I'll let you, because you'll probably explain it better than I will. Go ahead and explain to our listeners who aren't familiar with Record Store Day what exactly it is.
So it's basically, I can't tell you how long ago it started. I want to say, it's before I started collecting vinyl. It was probably, 15 years ago. I'm not going to be quoted on that because I don't know off the top of my head.
2008.
2000 what?
2008.
Oh, wow. Okay, so not that long ago. Okay. But basically it's a day where record stores have to basically sign up for this, and there's a bunch of new releases from artists. There are limited edition releases from artists. There's re-releases, and basically all these albums come out on the exact same, they all come out on the same day. The limited edition stuff, obviously, there's some of these things never get repressed, which is extremely frustrating. Because then you'll find them on Amazon and they'll be marked up like 50%. I mean, it's insane.
I know the Goo Goo Dolls have done that with a couple live vinyl pressings where they've released them specifically for Record Store Day, and then they don't release them later. And actually, their Gutter Flower album, which is one of my favorites, is part of a huge bundle of their albums that they've released on vinyl specifically for Record Store Day this year. And I just want the Gutter Flower album because I have the other ones that I want, and it's really frustrating that I can't get it.
Well, somebody might. I mean, if you look around long enough, somebody might just separate the set. I don't know.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, though.
No, that's okay. And so basically all these albums come on the same day, and the stores, I haven't really figured out how that works. The stores, I think, just get to put it in order about what they want. But as far as the quantities that they're going to get, I don't think they really know. I'm not sure how that works, but it always seems like the most popular albums, you get like, these stores do not get, 50 copies. Like, most of the albums that I went to go get were like 4. So literally this record store opened at 8. I got there at 6:30.
Oh, wow.
And I was 20th in line.
Oh my goodness.
And the first guy that came out just had this stack of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I got the Elton John album. I'm like, all right, that sucks. I'm not going to get this year. Like, there's no way 19 more people are going to go in there and not buy this thing. Because, literally, these guys, that is a full-time hobby for people. This guy walked out with like 15 albums. And
wow.
There's a limit. You can't buy more than one copy, but you can buy as many as you want. So it is frustrating from that aspect. It does, from a buying record standpoint, it does pay off in the long run to buy it while you can. Like, if your favorite artist is selling an album on their website and it's $25 or whatever, it's worth paying for it now, because
I agree with that.
Once it goes out of print, forget it. There's a Paul album I bought in 2007 that I bought for $20, and now it's on Amazon and somebody's selling it for like $120. You cannot.
Holy crap.
Yeah, it's he didn't make that many, but that's how you can't find it anywhere else. So it does pay to, if you're really interested in buying an album, it really doesn't pay to wait, because the price is only going to go up, or it's going to get harder to find.
Yeah, I've noticed that even on Amazon, where sometimes I'll go to look for an album and it'll be there, and I'll say, okay, I'll wait till my next paycheck. And then I'll go back and all of a sudden it won't be available, or it won't be available on Prime. And I won't buy anything off Amazon if I can't get it on Prime. I'm sorry. I'm that person.
Oh, waiting 2 extra days is so terrible.
Shipping.
Oh my goodness.
And not having to pay for shipping. Judge me all you want, but you guys, I know there are other people out there who are just like me. I'm sorry. But the point to that was that even Amazon has that problem where one day it's there, the next it's not. So like Eric was saying, if you really want an album, don't wait on it. Just get it while you can.
Yep. It does not get any easier.
And so, Record Store Day is a huge thing. There's literally thousands of stores that participate every year. Fans stand in line for hours, like Eric was saying. And there's limited edition albums that are only available at those participating record stores. It's really cool to see, especially now with social media, all the bands that promote their participation in Record Store Day. Like, they'll advertise the albums that they're releasing on vinyl. And you can follow the stores now on Instagram and Facebook, specific record stores, and they'll tell you if they're participating or not. Or, like Eric said, you could go to the recordstoreday.com website and just type in your zip code, which I'm sure is a much easier way. But yeah, it's really, for me, it feels like it's not something that I've participated in yet, but it is on my list of things to do one year. But I want to be able to, because to me, it sounds like it's a full day, like almost a full day experience. So I want to be able to take the time to plan it out and do it the right way.
Yeah, and it's it sounds like, you're standing in the line for 2 hours and you're just standing there. Everybody in that line is talking about albums that they purchased, concerts that they saw last week. What's your favorite album? What album are you here to see? I saw this guy back then. Like, it's, you're talking to a bunch of people that are of the same mindset also. So it's not like which is awesome. So you do get some pretty cool stories. Or there's
make
people
some new friends.
make some new friends, and then get pissed at them when they walk out with the album you were gonna buy. Because you told them what album they wanted, so they went to go get that one.
See, that's the mistake you made. You told him the number one album you wanted. You shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. No, actually, it did work out. There was a guy that was like 10 spots ahead of me when I was in line, and he goes, I'll get that Elton John album for you, and he was in the line ahead of me, and he goes, yeah, they don't have it. And I was like, darn it. But
well, that was nice of him.
Yeah, it was nice.
And there's actually certain venues or bars that will participate where they'll let you meet there, and they'll offer a shuttle to like however many record stores.
That's cool.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them do this. Off the top of my head, I can't think of their names. But again, if you follow any of these music places or these venues or bars or whatever on social media, as soon as, it's a few months getting closer to Record Store Day, they start announcing all this stuff and advertising it. So it's definitely stuff you're going to want to pay attention to.
And some record stores will actually, not all of them do it, but some of the record stores will actually tell you on their website what they actually got in. That's the other thing is, like I said, the record store can request that they want 10 copies of this album. They may not get anything. So just because you're going to a record store doesn't mean they may not even get the album that you want. So that's also a kind of a sticking point with some people is, you wake up and go early to the store and they never even had the album that you wanted. So
yeah, so definitely try and do your homework ahead of time, and maybe call the stores and see if they're going to be getting the specific album that you're looking for.
Yep.
What else? So why do you think vinyl has made such a huge comeback in the last few years?
I think it goes back to how cassettes are coming back. I can't figure that one out at all. Like if there was a more unstable piece of media that we could have created to record music on, why would let's bring that one back where it gets chewed up and you just lose everything.
Not to mention the hassle of rewinding and fast forwarding.
Yeah, some of my greatest albums I made myself were on mixtapes. Don't get me wrong, but
my best work were mixed CDs. Okay.
I know they were.
Nowadays, these kids have playlists, and it's just not the same.
No.
You don't know for sure that they're listening to the songs. You
Correct.
Don't have that, that creative freedom where you can write on the CD. You can't. It's just not the same.
No, it's not. You're right.
And I know I probably sound like a, grandma over here, but it's just.
Sorry for everyone. You're going to have to get off Manda's lawn.
When I send people I know like links to songs, it just feels weird. Like I don't like it.
I agree. It feels empty.
It feels very empty. It's very unfulfilling. Like I would much rather have the days back where, I stay up late at night in my room on my computer and just making mix CDs for people. Or if someone's like, hey, I need some new music to listen to. Really? Okay, I'll make you a CD. And that's all there was to it. And you'd spend hours, literally hours, or maybe this was just me, trying to find the right songs to put on there. Because you couldn't put more than one song by the same artist on the same CD. If you wanted it, you had to do more than one CD.
Yep.
You had to make sure, like, if there was a theme, or if this was, like, a totally random mix that you were making, or if, you're making it for your friend who was going through a heartbreak, then you had to pick the right songs. Or if this was for a road trip, or whatever the case may be. Like, or if you were specifically for educational purposes, where you're trying to introduce somebody to a new artist or new music. It's just, you had that, there was something very therapeutic about making mix CDs, and making a playlist, it's just not the same. Not nearly the same.
And this episode, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This episode of Striking a Chord is brought to you by LimeWire.
Oh, good old LimeWire and Napster and.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love the convenience of things like streaming services, Apple Music and Spotify and iTunes. But
something's missing.
Yeah, it sucked having to carry a backpack full of just CDs on the bus with your Discman, going to school and stuff. But You had I did. You had the physical copies of the CDs, so you got to show them off to people.
Yeah.
You know, you just. There was just something more way more special about it. Whereas now you're just on your phone and no one knows what you're listening to.
And indirectly, even though we drove this car completely off the road, you've also explained why vinyl is back, because there's something about having a physical piece to it, and it brings. I don't want to say it's nostalgic because it wasn't around when they were around the first time, but there's something about kind of just listening to an album, all the way through. Yeah, you can skip. Good luck trying to do that. I mean, you have to be like a pinpoint drop to get that needle to fall on the right song. But there's just something about a physical piece of media with, you pull out the insert. Some of them, you've got artwork or things on the inside. It's just, there's something about it from a presentation, and just, like I said, the sound quality is better. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, and that was something I've always heard, is that the sound quality on a vinyl is just much better. So I definitely believe that. And I think you're right. I think it just comes down to there's just something special, and you feel like you're a part of something special when you have a vinyl album. Because, I mean, unless you're somebody who's just collecting every single album that you can get your hands on, then, I mean, it loses its it loses the specialness, for lack of a better way of putting it. But, if you're like Eric and I, where you're collecting certain albums by certain bands or of a certain decade, then there's reason behind it. It's more meaningful and it's more special. And not to keep reusing the same word, but it just means more. Like when I look at the vinyl albums on my shelf, and I see albums by the Goo Goo Dolls and Lifehouse and Matchbox 20 and Linkin Park and Gin Blossoms. I mean, those are my favorite artists. These are my favorite albums. So they're there for a reason. And I mean, even if they're mostly there for display or if they're there for listening, I mean, or both, a combination of both, obviously. When somebody comes over and they see those particular albums, they're going to be like, oh, well, you don't just have, every album by every artist, but you have specific ones. It's going to start a conversation, and they're going to see that these albums obviously must mean something to you, more so than other ones.
Yep. You're 100% correct. Did you do a list of your top 10?
So I gave you guys the list of the ones that I have. There's literally only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. I think I only have like 7 or 8 albums on vinyl right now. But I definitely have a list of other albums that I want to get on vinyl.
Okay. No, I was going to say, because the 2 other things I've got is I still have the list. I've also got like supplies and stuff. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about that for people who end up getting inspired by this conversation to go out and start collecting vinyl.
So supplies are, supplies are another way of going about it. I think I have a pretty simple setup. I mean, the worst thing about vinyl is moving it, because it's not. I mean, when you have to get a pretty decent, sturdy sized box for moving these things around and actually storing them. You shouldn't just stack them up on the floor and etc. But there's a website called Sleeve City that I've randomly found, but they actually have a lot of different record supplies. They've got oversized jackets for your records, which is great because most of the new albums that come out by more modern artists are these like thick double fold, like they're much larger than the original records that came out in the 70s. And if you get these regular size sleeves, your records don't fit, as I quickly discovered. So they actually have a thing on their website for like oversized LP sleeves, which I have not found anywhere else. I'm sure they probably are somewhere else, but all of my records have fit so far, minus one, which is like a quadruple LP that's not going to fit in anything. And then you can also get on there. I think the only other thing that's worth getting, you need storage, you need sleeves for your jackets, assuming you want to protect them. I also have little anti-static brush because your records do get really dusty. I don't know where the dust comes from. Apparently it just materializes because as soon as I'm done with it, I put it away. But it does affect the, you do not want to end up with a scratch because unlike other medium, the scratch on the record is pretty much permanent unless you want to spend a lot of money to buy a cleaning system, which is a whole nother. Depends on how far you want to go with this. It's kind of like everything else. You can take a hobby as far as you want to go. I have a couple friends that have a record player and they have a couple records, stacked up in the room and they just play them. And that's perfectly fine if you're on more of the collector side, which I'm drifting slowly towards. You end up getting into a little bit more of the, protecting things and making sure you're not going to end up with, something you invested a decent amount of money in that, you don't want to end up with, scratches or something that's going to impact it. Ben Folds on a webcast also basically told me to my face that my record player is garbage.
Oh no, that's embarrassing.
Well, he was very nice about it because he's like, this is the setup I have, and it's like, yeah, that's $8,000, Ben, and I am not a recording artist with an unlimited amount of money, but basically, I have a Crossley. It's a Crossley Lancaster. Looks great. It has speakers on, included in it. But after looking at the setup, Ben Folds basically started a Patreon website, and he does a webcast kind of haphazardly every couple of weeks, where literally he will just talk about taking care of vinyl. I didn't even know he collected vinyl, so that's even weirder. But literally the entire webcast is like taking care of records, and then he'll just play for like an hour and a half, just like his favorite albums. He'll play like selected songs. Yeah. And you'll literally he'll just be sitting there listening to the records and then talking about like how they influenced him and what songs, were kind of relatable to that. And it's really interesting.
That's pretty cool.
But, he'll also take your questions, and, you have people that send in their, this is my record player, what do you think? And I'll say, really good. And I'm looking at these other people's record players, and I'm like, oh my God, like mine looks like my stylus is made out of like Lincoln logs here. And I need to start to upgrade this. So I sent him a thing, and I was like, Ben, how, I'm trying to.
Mr. Folds.
Yeah.
Mr. Folds.
I did meet him once in person, so I feel like we have a relationship.
Oh no, you're that fan?
Oh geez.
Yeah. I don't know where he lives anymore. No, I'm joking. So, no, but he basically said, I said, I've seen that some other people have nicer systems. I said, is that going to affect the way I play my records? Because I really want to make sure I'm getting the most out of it, and also I want to protect my records. And he's like, unfortunately, if you want to protect your records, you need to get rid of your record player.
Oh my God.
He goes, if you're fine with it, he's like, there's nothing wrong with the record player you have. He said, unless you're gonna, if you're somebody that actually is really focused on taking care of your records, like eventually, because the stylus is not made for long-term use, he said, and there's nothing wrong with Crossley. It's a great company. They make fantastic products. He's like, but that's not what they're not in this for long-term protection. They're in this for the joy of getting somebody to get into record collecting and playing records. He's like, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And he's right. If that's what your goal is, and you're not worried about, long-term potential, scratching or something, then there's nothing wrong with it. But, at the same time, when you have, on my side, where you have things you've invested money in, you probably need to look at an upgrade. So, yeah.
So nowadays they actually have, not to interrupt you, but they actually have, they make this, I don't want to call it an entertainment center, but it's almost like a 5-in-1 kind of media entertainer. Mm-hmm. Where it's a record player, a CD player, a cassette player, an AM, FM radio, and it has a Bluetooth capability so that you can connect your cell phone or iPod if anyone still has an iPod.
Wow. I actually had one that was similar to that, but eventually the record needle wore out, and I was not going to call this place and try to replace the next record needle. So that's when I bought my Crossley. So.
I would, so this one I got at, it was like Target or Walmart, I think. They were both selling them, and I think Sam's Club was too, for anyone who's not from the Chicagoland area. If they don't have a Sam's Club where you live, I apologize if you're unfamiliar with it. But yeah, this was a few years ago because I got mine for Christmas. And then I also got my parents one for Christmas. And they loved it. They can play their CDs on there. They can listen to the radio. You know, my mom, I got her Chicago vinyl. I forget what album it was. It's her favorite one.
I was going to say, generally it's Chicago with a number at the end of it.
Yeah, I forget what number it was, though. 6, 7? I don't know. Something like that. But yeah, so, I mean, like, they love it because, I mean, it's just, it basically, like, you're able to do everything,
Yep.
like, listen to any kind of form of music media on there. So, it's pretty cool.
Yep.
So we talked about the supplies. Was there anything else that you would recommend to people?
No, like I said, I think it goes back to what you're in it for. I mean, if you're in it for the, just to have a record player and play records when you can, that's totally cool. And I think that depends on how deep you want to go into it. Like, literally, there's a guy at work I work with. We were both at Record Store Day, and he was telling me his setup. And I mean, this guy's got more stuff than you would even know what to do with. But that is his full-time hobby. I mean, he literally just buys a record player on eBay and just knows all the equipment and just rebuilds these things.
Yeah.
And it depends how much money you want to put. He's like, I'll sell you my used record player for like $800. And I'm like, yeah, no, but like.
You mean you don't have $800 just sitting around waiting to be spent?
I wish I did. I eventually need to. So he's gonna help me kind of get on an affordable record player budget where I'm gonna be happy but not damage my records long term. So
okay, well that's good.
Yeah, it just, like I said, it depends how much you want to put into it. From a supply standpoint, I think you really don't need much more than something to protect the sleeves, because again, for me that's important. The presentation of the album. I mean, if you pull out an album out of a stack and the cover was like all discolored, or looks somebody spilled coffee on it, or it just, I don't know. There's some of my friends are perfectly fine with that. That's my Paul Simon coffee album, and that's all right. But to me, it's like you just pull it out, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem the same.
Yeah, and I think with the popularity of vinyl now, I think because of that, more bands are releasing more albums on vinyl. Like Hailstorm's their newest album that came out last year, they released it on vinyl, which I need to get that I need to order that off their website. And an artist that we featured at the end of earlier this year, just a couple months ago, Jacob Bryant, he released his debut album, Practice What I Preach, on vinyl. I need to order that. And OAR's newest album, which I'm obsessed with, The Mighty OAR, they are releasing that on vinyl this Friday, I believe, actually. So that's another album I need to order. And so it's really cool to see more modern bands releasing their newest albums on vinyl. So again, I mean, because OAR is one of my favorite bands, and I love this album, that's probably something that I would get on vinyl. Hailstorm, I love them, so I love the new album. That's probably something I'll get on vinyl. And it's not a case where every new artist that I like, I'm going to get their new album on vinyl. But the ones that are a little bit more, like I said earlier, special to me, those are the ones I'm going to make a point to get.
And the other thing that's worth noting, too, is most of the new, I say most because there are a couple artists that don't do this, but most of the new albums, when you buy the record, there will be a download card with it.
Yeah.
Which is nice because, you can buy your equipment to burn a record into an MP3, but that's expensive and also a little bit backwards. But
yeah. And it defeats the purpose.
Yeah, but that's another thing to look for is there are some artists, Elton John, I'm calling you out in particular, you buy your vinyl LP and I open it up and I'm like, yeah, there's no download card, so now I have to go get that in electronic format too, which kind of stinks.
Yeah, there's definitely albums where I have the CD, I'll have it in digital format, I'll pay for it to listen to on streaming, and then I'll go and buy the vinyl. So you could tell we're definitely hardcore music fans.
Yeah, you have
because
to have it.
Yeah, exactly. There are people who don't even have it in one format.
Right.
Like paid for, let alone for.
Is that a diehard music fan or someone that's just fiscally irresponsible?
That's a good point. No, I consider myself a diehard music fan. If I'm buying it, if I'm paying for the streaming service, buying it on iTunes, buying the physical copy of the album, and then buying it on vinyl on top of that, that's 4 forms of the album. That's hardcore.
Yeah, it is. I'll give you that.
Call it splurging or, financially irresponsible, whatever you will. But, everyone has their things. Some people choose alcohol and drugs. I choose music.
Wise choice.
Yeah, right? So we can't talk about vinyl without talking about some of the classic movies that are known for their storyline that centers around vinyl albums. One of my favorite albums, or one of my favorite movies that does this is High Fidelity with John Cusack, Jack Black, and I can't think of the other guy's name. But so John Cusack owns a record store, which is the movie is based in Chicago, and he sells vinyl, he sells CDs, cassette tapes, whatever. But his own personal collection, when you watch the movie, you see he's got a massive collection of vinyl albums. And throughout the whole movie, I mean, he's obviously a huge music fan, so he's just referencing different things. But there's a part where he's reorganizing his vinyl albums. And he says that, so he's putting them in chronological order, I believe. So if he wants to look for, let's just say, a Stevie Wonder album. I'm not saying that's the specific album that he was talking about in the movie, but because I can't remember it, that's just what I'm going with right now. So if let's say he wants to look for a Stevie Wonder album, he's got it, whatever one, The Key of Life, we'll just say. He's got to remember that he bought it for so-and-so as a gift in the spring of 79, whatever. So that's really hardcore, and it's really cool, movies like that, how they center around, the character's love for music. And those are the movies that I relate to, obviously, because of the strong love for music in them. And there's a quote in another one of my favorite movies that centers around music. And it's Almost Famous, which I believe, Eric, did you see this movie?
No.
What? What? Okay, that is your homework. You have to go see this. You have to go watch this movie.
I did a lot of homework for this episode.
I know. I'm very proud of you.
That's for the next episode when we discuss movie music.
That will be an episode eventually. But no, you definitely have to watch Almost Famous because it's all from the 70s, all that stuff. So you have to go listen to that or go watch that movie.
All that old disgusting music, right?
No, I mean it's all what we call now classic rock.
Okay.
But it's still classic music. But so Kate Hudson's character, Penny Lane, the famous line that she has in that movie is, I always tell the girls, the girls are the Band-Aids, what she refers to them in the movie, never take it seriously. If you never take it seriously, you never get hurt. If you never get hurt, you always have fun. And if you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and visit your friends. And I always loved that last line. If you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and visit your friends. Because, I mean, really, for a music fan, there's no better place to be than just surrounded by music.
And they're few and far between. I mean, just how music has been totally turned into digital subscriptions. I mean, when you seriously think about, even when we were kids, Amanda, like Music Recyclery in Chicago Ridge Mall.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I could spend years in there.
Yeah, I mean, even like FYE music too.
Yeah, that's true too.
And that was more of like all forms of entertainment, movies and music. There was also, again, this is for the Chicagoland people, but there was like a Coconuts, which eventually turned into FYE.
Yep.
And so Coconuts was near what Eric was just referring to, the Chicago Ridge Mall. And that was a place where one of the only like two or three places where you could, back in the day, we didn't have the luxury of going online for Ticketmaster. You had to go to a store, whether it was a Dominic's, Coconuts, or Sears. I think was a Sears or Carson's, one of the two, and you had to physically stand in line and buy your tickets for concerts. The struggle was real. You had to get up early. You had to plan it out ahead of time. Like,
you had to go uphill both ways.
I mean, it was a whole process. You had to bring somebody with you just in case. The struggle was real, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Kids these days now, we just one click of a button. We sit in a queue. We can multitask while we're buying concert tickets now. We couldn't do that then. We had to take the day off. We had to take time away from whatever else we had planned and physically go to the store where there was a Ticketmaster and buy the tickets. Buy physical copies of the tickets. You couldn't print them out on your computer or at the library. Yes, there's these things called libraries. Yeah, I mean, it's insane the way everything has changed now. Technology has just completely taken over.
You just described an entire episode of Saved by the Bell. I don't know if you realize that.
Yeah, actually, I remember that episode now. They literally camped out in the mall.
Yep. And Screech left and they didn't get their tickets.
I remember that one. That was a good one. I mean, except for the part where they didn't get their tickets, obviously. I think they got scammed, too, because they tried to get them off a scalper, right?
They ended up getting tickets because it's Saved by the Bell. But yeah, no, they got scammed, too. Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah. The life of a diehard music fan is rough.
And expensive.
It is expensive.
I agree with the second one.
Very expensive.
Very much so. Yes.
There was something else I was going to ask you, and now I don't remember what it was. So what albums are on your list for ones that you still need to get on vinyl?
Oh boy. So still got on. I thought we were going to do albums that we already had on vinyl.
Oh, well, yeah. So I already went through mine because it's a short list. So go ahead. Since you didn't go through all of yours, go ahead.
Well, I'll do some because me narrowing it down to 10 was difficult. Number one would be the first album that I ever got, actually I got 3 at once, but I call this one the first one I ever got because chronologically it would have been first.
Okay.
It was McCartney by Paul McCartney.
Of course.
His first album. The Beatles were still together, and it's literally like he's just recording it in his basement. And it is the simplest music you could possibly do with an acoustic guitar. And it just feels like he's just playing to you in your house. And it's not like, you think of Paul and you think of all this complex orchestration and pianos and strings and everything else. And it's so stripped down that it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't ever see him like that. And, he recorded it in like no time at all, just recorded it in I think he was away in Scotland in just like his home and just released it. And it went to number 1 because his name was on it. But this is when the Beatles were breaking up. So it was a kind of a crazy time. And maybe I'm amazed on that album, but nobody realized that was actually a good song until 6 years later. Like, he just released it, and everyone's like, yeah, that's all right. And then 6 years later, it comes out, and it's, oh, this is a number 1 single. I'm like, yeah, I knew that at the time, but...
Funny how that works.
This is not going to be a surprise to you, but Moondance, Van Morrison, he's probably singing it right now.
Aw.
In the Chicago Theater without me.
Eric has serious FOMO going on right now.
No, it's not serious. But the tickets were too expensive, and I'm on a budget.
Yeah.
So that whole album is just awesome. From the first, when you start an album with "And It Stoned Me," that's just a great start. The whole album is kind of mystical. The Moondance itself is an amazing song.
I love just the name Moondance. I just love that.
Yeah, and it was actually one of the first song I heard off that album was actually Caravan, and I heard it on the drive. And it was because that was when they had this thing that was called like Thursday Artist Portrait, and they used to do like 3 songs in a row by an artist. I didn't even know who it was by. I had to go look it up afterwards. And then that was what started it. I mean, his career is another roller coaster, but that album in particular was one of the first ones I bought. I already talked about that one. Steely Dan, Asia. This is actually an album that is purchased by people to test their sound equipment.
Why is that?
It's just recorded so well. Like, literally, there are people that are, like, I was in a record store once. I was like, oh, this is a great album. And he's like, yeah, I'm just buying this to test my record equipment. I was like, oh, that's a compliment in a reverse kind of way.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just the recording is so tight. Like, I don't know what they did differently that other artists, because this album came out in 1977. I don't know what they did differently. Steely Dan was very perfectionist, but that's their most popular album. It's got Josie, it's got Peg. None of these songs you know, Amanda, but you would know them if I played them for you.
There is a Steely Dan song that I know. Obviously, it's very popular, but I can't think of the name of it. Is it Reelin' in the Years?
Yes, that is one.
Okay, I think there's got to be another one though too that I know.
You know, Do It Again, probably.
Maybe.
Stop, drop, do it again. Never mind.
Okay. My goal now is to try and get every special guest that I have on here to sing at some point.
That'll probably be the last. I'll do a couple more because I feel like I'm monopolizing this.
No, you're good.
Okay. Highway 61 Revisited by Bob Dylan. I literally picked that up at Beverly Records because I knew that Like a Rolling Stone was on it, which obviously is one of the most popular songs in the history of music.
Also featured in Almost Famous, just for the record.
throwing more into that homework assignment.
Yep.
And I remember I was just working on something in my room. I was probably organizing albums or something. And that was on. And then all of a sudden, the next song on that is Tombstone Blues. And this is like the first album when Dylan went from like folk to rock. And that song started, and I literally just turned my head. I was like, what in the hell? Because it is so jarring to hear that coming out of him. And I cannot imagine when that came out. I mean, I do imagine. I saw the documentary for it. But, I mean, literally, he got booed off the stage at the folk festival.
Oh, wow.
They're not, you don't play electric guitar. Like, it just was, to hear him sing a song with just literally just somebody crashing on drums and everybody just beating the hell out of a guitar. Like, it was so jarring, but it was freaking awesome.
Not what you think of when you hear the name Bob Dylan.
No, I'll send you that one. That one was like, man, that was, I still remember just like literally just stopping and just listening. Like, this is so off the wall. On the other end of it, you cannot have what Eric listed on a Ben Folds album. Of
course.
Because he's my idol, or one of 15. The unauthorized biography of Reinhold Messner, which I will eventually get Amanda to listen to in its entirety.
Yeah, we'll see.
Against her will. But that's like the exact opposite, where that is just meant to be an album. Like, that album is actually it was supposed to be one song, and he had to split it up into a bunch of different songs because his record label got angry. And that whole album is kind of sad. It's not one like usually with Ben Folds. You got a bunch of smart, snarky lyrics with interesting piano arrangements and really a lot of sarcasm.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like the first song is called Narcolepsy.
Oh, interesting.
Awesome song, but it's almost the whole album is like just low tempo. It's like he recorded like an adult contemporary album like after he made these last two albums, which were really smart, sarcastic and everything else. And it's just, again, it's jarring because did not fit the band's mold at all. And I'm still writing a review for that is still unfinished. But just the song quality is so different. Like you just didn't have, in the late 90s, you didn't have a bunch of 30-olds recording music with like strings and flugelhorns in it. Like it.
Yeah.
It definitely was different, and it's probably my favorite album by them, just because it's very personal. There's a lot of introspective thinking about just kind of like where your life is kind of going. It's a really weird album, but it makes you think. And at the end of it, like I said, you're not really happy and ready to go out and take of the world. You really just want to like sit and think.
So is it the kind of album that you would like put on if you were just like ready to like chill out and maybe go to sleep?
I don't know if it's ready to chill and go to sleep because you're thinking too much. You have to be like, I remember my buddy got me into Ben Folds 5, and this was actually the first album I listened to, and he said you have to be in a weird mood to listen to that album. But again, I can't really do it justice. Like you just have to. They're very serious songs from an artist that at that point was not very serious about anything other than, just writing his own music and being very flippant about the whole recording industry. I mean, he literally wrote a song on one of his singles that was about his record company forcing him to write a song.
Oh wow!
That obviously did not go over well, and he was dropped. But I mean, that's kind of the way he recorded. So to hear him, take a serious approach on things was kind of unexpected. And I'll do one more. Elton, of course. This is not my favorite Elton album, but it's the best. It's the one that sounds best on vinyl.
Okay.
So it's the Tumbleweed Connection. There is not a single song that is a hit on that entire album.
Really?
Which is weird because Elton at least has one hit single on every album that everyone pretty much knows. That does not have a single song that anyone would know. But it's very kind of just him and the piano, or him and like some kind of sparse guitars. And again, it's kind of like the McCartney album where it's kind of just personal, but it's got everything's kind of what they called it the Tumbleweed Connection because everything kind of has like a Western tinge to it. But again, it's like he's just in the recording studio with like three people, and it just feels very, I guess, more intimate. So on vinyl, that comes through like crystal clear, where you don't have all this instrumentation and everything else that kind of gets jumbled into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one, the only song I think maybe somebody would know is Burn Down the Mission. That's actually kind of popular. He plays it at almost every show. That was the picture I had on my Facebook where the piano was literally on fire, but that's obviously graphic. But I guess that's a good short list for me. I don't know if you or Rich had more you wanted to throw in there.
Rich, do you have any? I don't even know if you collect albums on vinyl. Do you?
I have like 200.
Oh my god!
And you said nothing this whole time?
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I know.
I'm at that point in life where I'm just like, I'm so exhausted right now. But yeah.
How do you?
What?
So how have you picked the albums that you've chosen to buy vinyl on? Have you done just favorite artists, favorite albums, or a little bit of both, or just whatever you can get your hands on?
Hey, that's obscure. I'm gonna buy it. No joke.
Does that not surprise me?
No joke. I mean, what
are some of the albums that you have on vinyl?
Do you want the really obscure things that I have?
Sure, why not?
After listening to the favorite albums of all time, I think you've set a precedent for yourself.
I have Pac-Man Fever.
What?
What is that about?
Why is that a vinyl?
Because it came out in 1980, early 80s.
I mean, I know how old Pac-Man is, but I mean, like, why did somebody feel the need to put that on vinyl?
Yeah, it's a huge song in the like a huge comedy song in the 80s, and I just bought the album because that's how I roll 90% of the time. I have a bunch of Dr. Demento on vinyl as well.
Which you're a Weird Al fan, so that's understandable.
Yeah. Besides Jake Giles Band, which is probably my favorite album ever that I own on vinyl for some weird reason, I also have a bunch of
yeah.
Yeah, because I did talk about that. No, I love that album. I have the Grease soundtrack on vinyl, signed by the cast.
Wow.
Let's see. I've got like the John Hughes 80s movies on the music on vinyl as well.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just I'd have to go through, like, I've got so much stuff. I actually just bought something to add to my collection recently, which you'll be proud of me, Amanda. No, it's Reputation. And I was like, I gotta put this in.
Yeah, I definitely need to get some Taylor Swift on vinyl, for sure.
I just did that. I also have Reputation on cassette. Leave me alone.
Cassette?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I have the special edition CD from Target, but
yep.
Wow, cassette.
Yep. I've got the Clerks soundtrack on vinyl as well.
Really?
I'm trying to think what I've got a bunch. It's just mostly 80s stuff though.
Okay.
Oh man, Robert Palmer. Like stuff I would normally listen to. Of course, Toto. Since you guys gave me so much crap about that last episode, Toto.
No. There's nothing wrong with Toto. It's just that Toto is not an 80s hair metal or glam rock band.
Yeah.
That was the argument.
You leave me alone.
Yeah, Toto falls into like they're almost
Arena
like
rock.
They fall in between, is how I look at this.
They're kind of jazzy though too.
Jazzy.
That's not a term I would have thought.
Well, I mean, like they kind of have a smoother sound to it.
Yeah, I can see where that comes from. Yeah.
I mean, I live close to Memphis. I have a ton of Elvis.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then I have I think I have every Beatles album on vinyl.
Impressive.
I love the Beatles.
Yeah, that was another thing that Eric and I bonded over a long time ago. I grew up on the Beatles, and they're obviously one of his favorite bands.
I had a teacher introduce me to the Beatles through math test. That's what he would play when we were taking tests. Was just like, all right, guys, you have a choice. It's either Yanni or the Beatles, and everyone would be like, well, we're choosing the Beatles. So
Yanni? I mean, really?
Yeah.
I never understand the people who say, "Nah, I'm not really a Beatles fan." Like, what? I don't like. I don't know.
Those people are
I grew
wrong.
up on the Beatles, so I can't grasp that concept.
Those people are wrong.
And the worst is, and I hate to sound because I'm turning into Amanda here with these kids.
Does it have a backbeat?
I'm not sure what these kids are. It's just I'm just doing like finger quotes.
Anybody younger than us.
Okay, but like literally. Like 3 years ago, I had one of my McCartney shirts on, and this kid's like, would I know any songs he recorded? And I'm like, God help me!
Oh
like,
my God.
What song do you not know that he has recorded?
Seriously.
Like, my God in heaven, where did you grow up?
Who are his parents?
I don't know.
You know, it's worse when they're like, oh my goodness, I love Jesse McCartney. Just, nope, I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm out.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric probably would have died if the guy was like, "Don't you mean was he Jesse McCartney's dad?"
Yeah. I mean, we already talk enough about Billy Ray Cyrus, so. We have enough.
Yeah, don't get us started on Billy Ray Cyrus.
We know who got the talent in that family, and it was not him.
No, definitely not. What else do you have on vinyl, Rich?
I do actually own that on vinyl. I have Billy Ray Cyrus' first album on vinyl.
Oh, jeez.
I can't comment. I do have first CD I ever bought, so I had to buy it on vinyl. Too legit to quit.
Yes.
I saw it at the store. I had to do it. It was $1. And I mean, it was literally I remember I bought it on a 8th grade school trip at like some used CD store, because obviously if I'm on a school trip, I'm not doing there anything education. I'm for some reason in a CD store.
So were we, actually. Yeah. Every time we went somewhere, we were just like music store.
What schools did you guys go to?
Small town school
and I went to Chicago Public
Hold
School.
on. A small town school.
That's why you didn't go anywhere.
I went to a small town school who the coolest thing ever was going 20 minutes to a Walmart. You tell me.
Wow, put on your Sunday best. We're going to Walmart.
That's exactly right. That is not a joke.
Which is funny, because have you seen the way some people dress when they go to Walmart?
Yeah, we probably invented that.
The exact opposite.
Oh no, my mom made it a ritual. You had to put on a tie at times to go to Walmart. It was
Come to Chicago, dude.
Come to Chicago. I know now. Like, I can walk into a Walmart and automatically feel better about myself, but back then, no.
Oh my goodness. So Rich, you're in Kansas City. How are the record stores there?
Actually, I'm closer to Memphis, but that's a whole nother argument. Actually, we got some really good ones.
Geography was never my strong suit, okay, guys?
Yeah, I'm originally from that area, but...
that's right. I keep forgetting you're in Arkansas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, the Memphis area...
Kansas City.
Memphis area's got some great record stores.
I would imagine.
Just because of all the history. I mean, it is fantastic to walk into one of those record stores and just see... Because they'll take most of the historic music, and they've got it all over the wall. Like, you can't buy it because they're like, no, that's our copies. But they've got so much amazing stuff to walk in. One of my favorite places, and I'll even name drop them, is Shangri-La. It's pretty much a record store inside a house.
Huh.
It is one of the coolest places ever.
So I always love the idea of a record store, like a mom and pop type record store that's owned and has employees, like people who are actually genuinely interested in helping you find whatever it is you're looking for, people who are knowledgeable about the music, people who are there because they're just music fans. So again, something out of High Fidelity.
So what you're telling me is not people who worked at Hastings.
I don't know what Hastings is.
Oh my goodness, I quit.
What?
It was a store that sold music and video games and all that stuff. They just went out of business recently.
Eric, did we have one of those in Chicago?
Not that I'm aware of, but
okay, so
also
I'm not
very cultured either. I was shopping at Music Recyclery, Amanda.
There used to be they didn't sell vinyl, but there used to be a music store on 87th or 79th in Harlem in the strip mall. And people who are not from Chicago are going to be listening to this and be like, yeah, we have no idea what you're talking about. But they sold, it was a used music store. So they sold new and used CDs, I think maybe cassette tapes, music magazines, a few t-shirts, that kind of stuff. The guy was really cool that, I don't know if he owned the store or worked there, but very knowledgeable. That's where I got some of my first, so when I was a junior maybe in high school and I really started digging into the emo music, that's where I got a lot of my CDs. Mest, Saves the Day, Rise Against, they're more punk rock than emo, but that's where I started getting a lot of my CDs at. And when I first started getting into deeper into that scene, so I mean, I wish there were more stores, especially near me, that just more music stores in general that sold vinyl, CDs, cassettes for people, like Rich and Eric to an extent that still want to collect cassettes. Music books and magazines, and just that have people working there that genuinely know, are knowledgeable and care about the music. They're just genuine fans. They're kind of extinct now.
Yeah, up until, other than a couple stores that I've been to, I mean, you just don't have those. There's just not a demand for it. I mean, the people that are buying music are buying digital music. I mean,
but I mean, vinyl's
is,
made such a comeback that there is a bit of a demand for it. It's just,
Walmart's carrying
going
vinyl.
to physical stores to buy it.
Correct. I mean, I can't say. I mean, obviously, I've only been to like 3 or 4 different stores, but you know, there's a demand on Record Store Day. But beyond that, I mean, I can't say. I mean, I go there probably once a month, maybe, just to shop around. But it's not like there's ever like when we used to go to stores, it'd be 20 to 30 people in there shopping for stuff. It's just not the same. I mean, it's like everything else. Everything's done online. I mean, people don't even go to the grocery store anymore.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is people don't want to deal with other people, at least in regards to the grocery store thing. And I mean, if you're like me, so I don't drive. So for me, I take the 2 trains actually for work every day, to and from, 5 days a week. So to have to get on the train on the weekend, it's kind of a hassle. I just don't want to do it. Yeah. I don't, like I said, I don't drive. So unless I'm going with someone, the closest music store, other than the one that's around the corner from me that doesn't have anything after the 80s, the closest one would probably be Beverly. I don't want to go downtown. And then I think there's one in Naperville, which I do eventually want to check out. But again, I just wish they were closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rich, you were going to say something.
No, I'm just an hour and a half from everything, so.
Yeah, I can't imagine being that far from everything.
Yeah, no, that's the highlight of living in the Midwest. That's the southern Midwest. There's just nothing here around. Not a thing.
Great sell on your city.
No, I'm sure I'm fine with it. They know. I mean, we just got excited about a Chili's. You leave us alone.
Oh my God. I can't even remember the last time I've been to a Chili's. Now I'm hungry again. And I just ate dinner not that long ago. What'd you say?
Oh, I didn't say anything. I don't know if anyone else did, but.
Oh. So what are some albums that you guys are on your list to get on vinyl?
Well, number 1 on mine is obviously Elton John live in Moscow 1979, which I did not get 2 weekends ago. As some other 2 people walked out with my copies. But again, that's a limited edition one. I have not seen anywhere that it's going to be re-released in mass format. I'll even take it on MP3 at this point if I can get it, just because it's literally just him on a piano and his percussionist. And there haven't been many tours he's going on where it's just him by himself like that. So just to hear it, because I don't think he still gets enough credit for. I mean, as Amanda knows, I'm a piano junkie. I already wrote down Luke Underhill. I apparently have to go check him out. Even though you
love that you've paid attention.
I do listen. But I did write him down. He is on my list, but I noticed that you brought up, he sounds like Ben Folds, and then you're like, I like other artists, and then you didn't name Ben Folds. So
no, I did name Ben Folds.
I know, but I'm joking. But so that's on my list. There's also for Prince. Prince is a vinyl nightmare. Because all his stuff is extremely high priced now.
I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah.
And it's just hard to get. I mean, I have most of his early stuff that I purchased obviously before his passing, which actually was only 3 days ago. Was the anniversary for it. So all my fellow purple people.
Purple people.
We had our customary day of mourning. Still never got to see him live, so that's one that will never get fulfilled. But anyway, so there's a couple Prince albums. His literal vault is being opened up, and he apparently has 8,000 recordings that have never been released.
Oh my God!
Good grief.
So apparently, Yeah, I mean, he literally just, his entire place was wired up for sound, so whenever he had an idea, he just played it.
Smart on his end.
Yes. But, so yeah, we will have lots of new albums coming out, but trying to find some of his early stuff right now. There's an album which I almost didn't buy until I actually heard all the songs, because it's called Love Sexy, and he's basically naked on the front of it. Which,
Interesting.
is something that you really don't want to buy for that reason, but the album is freaking amazing.
Okay.
It's typical Prince. He'll do whatever he wants to do, and it is literally just one song. So you can't skip anything.
The whole album is one song?
Yeah.
Yes, so you put it down on vinyl, and it just plays, and it just plays. If you download it on iTunes, you have 45 minutes of one track.
Oh my god.
And that's just the way, I mean, every album with him has some kind of niche like that. Like the album 2010 has 77 songs on one CD. And you realize that tracks like 15 through 76 are just like 1 second of nothing. And then 77 is an entire new song.
Oh my god.
He's friggin' awesome. But I don't know. He was very religious, so I'm thinking like 77 was like some kind of like complete number. So you got to the end of the album like that. I don't know. I theorized, but there is a lot of Prince albums, like I said, that are on my list that I have not gotten. All of Ben's stuff I'm caught up on, which is awesome.
Okay.
And
something you can tell him on his next podcast, on his next webcast.
Yeah, maybe he'll play. That's the other thing. If you're part of the Ben Folds webcast, you can also submit your song lyrics, and he will compose a song.
Oh, wow. That's nice of him.
And then certain ones we haven't done it yet, but he's going to actually do them in the recording studio and like play like all the instruments on it and then record it, which is really, really cool.
That is cool. It's something different. You don't really hear about that, hear artists doing that.
No. He's very interactive. It's really cool to have a artist like that where you actually feel like you're not just throwing money down and you have no relationship whatsoever. Like I always laugh because I went to a Bob Dylan show and literally he just turns the light on, plays a song, the light goes off, the light turns back on, he plays a song, and then at the end he's like, "Yeah, this is my band, and I'll see you later." it's so detached. The guy's a living legend. He's probably seen and heard more music than I will hear in my lifetime. But it's so like I'm just here, and thanks for listening to my music, and I'll see you later. I really don't want to know you guys at all. But.
Unfortunately, some artists are just like that.
Yeah, I think the only other album that is on my list is another Todd Rundgren album that I just finished, and that is The Hermit of Minkhavo.
Interesting title.
all his albums have interesting titles, but it's basically one of his other more pop albums. He's got some really experimental stuff and again, this is like 1972 where he's doing like tape loops and things that people did not do back then. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of it is kind of jarring to hear, and I'm sure it was jarring when it first came out. But that's another one I need to get on my list too.
Okay. So some of the ones I still need to get are Gin Blossom's New Miserable Experience, which Amazon has it. I've just been putting it off.
You're going to pay for it, Amanda.
I know, right? I also need to get Gutter Flower by Goo Goo Dolls. And there's a couple Blink-182 albums. I think preferably Take Off Your Pants and Jacket that I want. Those ones, surprisingly, are a little bit more expensive. And then Rise Against has one or two that I would like to get on vinyl. I wouldn't mind getting one or two Saves the Day albums. What else? Vertical Horizon, Everything You Want. I am dying to get that on vinyl because that's such a great album. I love that. Came out in, I believe, like 2000 or 2001. And just great. Another example of great songwriting from that era. And who else? I wouldn't mind getting a new like a Rob Thomas solo album on vinyl because I have my favorite Matchbox 20 album.
Do you like Rob Thomas?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Not that it's been posted every single day with hearts and love signs and kisses and.
Don't judge me, okay? We all have our favorite artists that we would do just about anything for. Rob Thomas is definitely one of my top 3. I do want some Taylor Swift albums on vinyl for sure. It's just a matter of picking which ones. And then, so one thing with Eric, one of the more modern bands that he's a fan of, which I was really shocked to hear this, and I think I'm correct when I say this. One of your favorite albums was Tragic Kingdom by No Doubt. Is that still correct?
That is still correct. I do have that on vinyl, too.
I do, too.
Oh, you do?
I do, too. Yeah. It's a great album.
It is a good album. I wouldn't mind getting that on vinyl either, just because it is a classic album.
There's nothing better than having all your guy friends over and turning on an album that starts with "I'm Just a Girl."
I can just imagine that.
That's a great album. I mean,
it is.
And it's something that was. I can't imagine it. It was kind of like the Ben Folds thing I was telling you about in 1994, like coming out with that album, like in the midst of grunge and everything else.
Yeah.
Like it just, I wasn't listening to it back then, but I can just imagine how different that was.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely a couple OAR albums that I would like to get on vinyl, especially the new one, which I think I'm probably just going to go ahead and order that at the end of the month. And then newer albums like the new Hailstorm album, probably Jacob Bryant's album on vinyl. And those, off the top of my head, those are the ones I can think of. Because really, like, the ones that have mattered the most to me, I have, thankfully. Goo Goo Dolls, Superstar, Car Wash. Great album, especially if you're a fan of that late 90s alternative grungy rock music. Such a good album. Great songwriting. I've said this before. Johnny Resnick is like a rock star when it comes to songwriting. Jizzy Up the Girl, an iconic album from the 90s. Green Day, Dookie. Basically like the album that started it for pop punk in the 90s. And then Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory, changed the game for hard rock in the 2000s. Lifehouse, No Name Face. Oh my god. If you haven't listened to that album, like, don't judge just because you only heard Hanging by a Moment like 1,000 times on the radio back in the day. Go listen to that album in its entirety, from front to back. If you have to skip Hanging by a Moment because it's the first track on the album, I understand it, but listen to the whole rest of the album all the way through. Just incredible songwriting.
It's funny how many albums in general, like if you just take the single out of it, how the rest of the album is nothing like that single.
Yeah, there's a big trend of that, especially back in the 90s and 2000s, I think. Well, more so in the 2000s, really. Yeah,
I mean, it's just amazing how completely different some of these albums are tone-wise versus, I imagine the record label is kicking them saying, you have to release something that's going to be a hit because I'm not going to release it.
And I think that was a big issue back in the day. Like, bands or artists would put albums out and they'd basically have it done, but the record label would be like, okay, this is great, but we need a hit. Like, we need a single. You know how many times they did that to Eminem?
Oh, yeah. I mean, literally Ben Folds on one of his albums, they did not release it, and he said, what Elton John song do you want me to write? and so he basically just took, Landed, which is, most people have probably heard. It's probably his biggest single, but Landed sounds, when he said it, is based a little bit on Tiny Dancer. It does sound a little bit like Tiny Dancer.
Huh.
At least the intro. The rest of it is totally different.
Yeah, I haven't listened, which you and I have had this conversation before. I haven't listened to any Ben Folds stuff. So I'll definitely have to go back and check that out.
That's your homework.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You can give the host homework.
The producer can.
No, that's still not how this works.
That's how this works.
and you're going to a live show too.
Oh, I don't know about all that. I didn't agree to that.
Okay, he's on tour with Cake.
With
Cake? No, Cake.
Oh, I was like, who's Kate?
At first, literally, I thought it was like you go to Ben Folds and you get cake with it. It's
like,
well, that's like
you thinking that.
I was like, oh, long leather jacket cake, like kind of.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that song.
Yeah, it was alright.
I think the other popular trend back in that era was, so people bought more albums back then, obviously because that was a thing, but they bought the albums, a lot of people, specifically for one or two singles, like the radio hits, and that was it. Especially in like the pop genre, the rest of the album would be crap. Nowadays, and this is a big part of why digital music became so popular, you don't have to, I hate to use this term, but waste your money on a whole album that you may or may not like when you can just buy the individual songs.
Yeah, that is true. That is 100% true.
And it's sad because I'm still one of those people that listens to the full album all the way through. As soon as a band releases or an artist releases a new album, I listen to it all the way through. Now, I may not be able to listen to every song all the way through depending on how good or bad it is, but I definitely try to.
Somehow I think it involves anything that has a backbeat on it occasionally gets skipped.
That damn backbeat, I tell you. I don't know, there's just, and sometimes like, yeah, for the most part, I do put on like my own like self-made playlist, whatever, that I created when I want to listen to a variety of my favorite songs. But sometimes, more often than not, actually, I'm in the mood for just listening to one artist or band's one album. Like, I just want to listen to an album all the way through.
Yep.
And that's why, again, going back to my list of the albums that I have on vinyl, I do that with all of these albums, especially Goo Goo Dolls and Matchbox 20. Yourself or Someone Like You. Guys, there's a reason this freaking album sold so, like, millions of copies back in the 90s. Like, it still holds up to this day. Rob Thomas is when you guys are going to make fun of me because it's constantly like a gush fest on this podcast about Rob Thomas. But, I mean, there is no other singer-songwriter like him. There's just not.
Could you imagine how short the interview would be if you actually had him on this podcast?
It would not be short.
It would be the episode of SNL with Chris Farley's character when he's talking to Paul McCartney. Do you remember that time you were in the Beatles?
That was awesome.
Whatever.
You remember you were in Matchbox 19 or 21?
Dude, I've listened to and watched every interview I could find with him, and like Rolling Stone had him on their podcast just a couple weeks ago, and I think I listened to it twice already. And the whole time I'm listening to it, I'm like, I just want to interview him. That is my goal in my life, is to interview Rob Thomas.
Have you tried going on his website?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I've tried, believe me. But you know, I'm a small outlet. I'm a nobody when it comes to in the journalism world. So I'm still trying. Again, it's true. I'm keeping it real. But hey, if this podcast can reach Rob Thomas or somebody who knows Rob Thomas, please. Rich, what are some of the albums that you still would like to get on vinyl?
There's actually one I would like to get back if someone stole it from me.
Oh no!
Yeah, no.
That's why you don't lend out your vinyl.
No, it was a breakup. They took my favorite one, and I haven't seen it since. Yeah,
they just took it.
Yeah, they were jerks. I'm not going to say the word I really want to say because this show's a little bit more friendly than other shows. But if you want to listen to that word, listen to Live. It's Turn the Radio Off by Real Big Fish.
Oh, okay. I think I have that CD somewhere.
I've got it on CD. I've got it on my playlist, but I want the vinyl.
Okay.
So,
I didn't know Real Big Fish made albums on vinyl.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting.
And then I am going to pull one out of my rear end that I have not been able to find, but this is only because it was my favorite song as a kid. So my mom owned a truck stop growing up, and every time I would get a chance to play a song on the jukebox, for some reason I would just choose this song. So I would like to find the entire vinyl for it. Mm-hmm. But it's My Toot Toot by Rockin' Sydney. Thank you. There's one that no one will know, maybe.
No, I don't think I do.
It was a country hit in the 1980s. It went to number 16.
Wow.
Yep.
That's a very specific number.
Yeah, no, I just looked it up. So
okay. That's man.
But yeah, no, I really want to get that on vinyl, even though I know that's obscure.
Yeah, it's definitely obscure.
But it means something to you.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
That's kind of what all my obscure things are, though. It's like, oh, I can actually tie a story to 99% of this. So,
I also need to find Fall Out Boy's "Take This to Your Grave" album on vinyl. That's a must, and probably a couple New Found Glory albums.
And "Songs in the Key of Life" by Stevie Wonder.
No, I need to find that from my mother.
That album is awesome.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite albums.
And Coolio needs to just chop his Grammy in half. I don't know. I think I sent you that one. "Pastime Paradise" on that album.
Are you talking about Coolio from like Gangster's Paradise?
Yes, literally. That is like, I didn't realize it obviously because that's not a Stevie Wonder top 10 hit.
Yeah.
But literally, "Pastime Paradise" or "Gangster's Paradise" literally borrows almost everything from it.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
The lyrics are different, but the music is the same. The chorus is like, literally, it starts out with, "We've been spending most of our lives living in a pastime paradise," and I'm listening. I'm like,
huh?
Is this from '76 or '94? I don't know. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and then I looked up the Coolio song. I'm like, yeah, it's like borrows from pastime paradise. I'm like, borrows and steals. It's the whole freaking thing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like,
so I'm surprised no one came after him for that, because people keep coming after Ed Sheeran.
Well, but he gets licensing for it, correct?
He does, yeah.
Oh, I mean, you're saying coming after him as in he can't come up with his own original ideas?
Well, no. So what happens is, for the most, like, there's been a couple songs where people think that, and they're songs that like nobody really knows even existed, like, yeah. And this artist will come out of the woodwork and say, "Oh, well, he stole that from me, so I want to be listed as a songwriter so that he can get royalties." Yeah. And sometimes it's like you really have to listen to like the two, like, the two notes or whatever parts of the song, like side by side, to see like how similar is it. Like, is it worth like just adding that person on as a songwriter as like a credit, or should I fight it and go to court over it?
I think with the Coolio thing, I don't think anybody even knew. Like,
I didn't know that until you just told me now.
I actually just muted my mic to listen.
And it is, I mean, literally, it's exactly the same thing.
100%.
Wow. Somebody needs to call out Coolio now.
Every time this argument's had, though, I think of Vanilla Ice going, well, their song goes doom, 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 da da doom, doom. And my song goes doom, doom, da da doom, doom. Every time.
Oh, I remember that episode of VH1 Behind the Music.
Another great show, and another station that has nothing to do with music.
I know, and if there's one show I miss, it's Behind the Music. I mean, you can watch, for the most part, most of, like, a lot of them on YouTube, but it's not the same.
I miss pop-up video.
I know, we've had this conversation. People are probably tired of hearing us talk about it, but I don't care.
There's the few messages I have when I do get like a chance to read everything. I see the pop-up video messages going, "We're right there with you."
That makes me feel better. Because you know what? I really wish like they would bring back VH1 Behind the Music, because there's so many bands that I would love to see a Behind the Music episode on. Linkin Park, Goo Goo Dolls, Vertical Horizon,
Los Del Rio,
Matchbox 20. Yeah, Matchbox 20. Like Green Day, I think they have one on Green Day, but it's not recent. The Gin Blossoms, like Sister Hazel, give us these bands from the 90s and the 2000s. Like, now we're like a decade past that we want to know what happened to them. We want to know the backstory. All that's on YouTube right now are the ones from like the 80s and 70s. Like, you got the Carpenters, and you got Motley Crue and Poison and Journey and Def Leppard and Milli Vanilli, and I think one of the more recent ones is Pink, but I mean, that's pop music. I want like the 90s alternative rock genre.
How long was the Milli Vanilli one? Was it just a lip sync and then it was done?
Surprisingly, no. It was a full 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
But I watched that one back in the day when it was actually on VH1 when they were running reruns. Now I have to watch them on YouTube.
Again, it goes back to there's just a different music culture now. I mean, people just aren't that connected as they used to be, I don't think.
I mean, even radio is so different. Like, my dad and I were talking about this over the weekend. So, especially in Chicago alone, I don't know how radio is in other cities, but in Chicago, we no longer have an active rock radio station. Back in the day, we used to have 94.7, which was the Zone, best hard rock station we had. Like, from, like, active rock. You know, they would play stuff like, Breaking Benjamin, 3 Days Grace, like the stuff that now you can only hear on Sirius XM, Octane Radio, or Turbo, I believe now they have. We don't even have the Loop anymore, 97.9, which used to be like classic rock. But even when we had that, they were playing the same Stairway to the same Led Zeppelin songs, the same, Def Leppard song. I mean, it was the same stuff over and over. They never played anything like that wasn't a hit. They never played any B-sides, so to say, or album cuts.
That's why you got to take a drive on 97.1 FM.
And that's what my dad listens to for the most part. But I don't know. It's just we have two mainstream country stations here, and they both play the same. They both play the same stuff.
Our receptionists work. I don't know what she listens to, what station this is, but if I hear one more song that I believe all people are good, I am done.
That's Luke Bryan.
I hear it every day 12 times.
Yeah, that's the problem with mainstream radio is they're playing the same stuff, and then they're wondering why people are tuning into Sirius XM, or they're just plugging in their phones to their car, because new cars don't come with CD players, I've learned. Nope, they don't. If you want it, my dad couldn't believe it. My mom's car does not have a CD player.
I did check that mine did have.
It's kind of ridiculous. Like, so you have to sync your phone if you have Sirius XM. I swear it is my goal now to get Sirius XM to sponsor this podcast, because I plug them literally, I think, every episode I've done so far.
I'm trying to sell my soul to make live a Sirius show, because I could get away with a lot more on Sirius XM than I even can on a podcast, which is really crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And Sirius XM is, I mean, they have stations for everything. They have a Beatles station. They have a Tom Petty station. They have an Elvis station. I mean, now they have a Pandora Now station. I mean, it's just insane. How did we get on radio again? We went from vinyl to radio.
We're definitely off the rails, but it's kind of in a mixture of being nostalgic about what music was like a while ago.
Yeah, this has definitely been a nostalgic episode, and I do think it was probably the perfect episode for you to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a bunch. I mean, this is, like I said, everything I'm listening to is way before I was born, and I'm not. That's the I mean, that's the thing. Everyone's like, how do you get sick of listening to the same old albums over and over again? That's the thing, is you don't. Like, people forget that, like, I am still working through all these artists' albums. Like, Elton John, I still probably have another 7 to go.
Really?
He's been recording music since 1970.
But you haven't just consumed them all already?
You have to switch. You can't listen to the same. At least for me, I can't listen to him like just listen through like 18 albums straight or something. I have to break them up with something.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, Bob Dylan's the worst. I'll never finish that. He's still releasing stuff.
That's crazy.
Like, I think I'm in 1977, and I'm not even a quarter of the way done yet. Like, it's nuts.
Oh my god. That's dedication, though. I'll give you that.
No, I mean, and that's the thing. Everyone keeps saying, you're listening to the same old albums. No, I'm listening to the same artists. They just have a lot of albums.
Yeah.
And it's cool to rediscover some of those less obscure or more obscure albums. I mean, that was another difference that people, I'm getting on another rant here, but that was another difference between artists back then was, Elton John, Prince, all the artists I listened to from long ago, they were releasing an album every single year. You don't have that anymore. Like, Paul McCartney literally released an album every single year until 1983, from like 1970 on.
But I think some artists nowadays feel like they can't release an album every single year because the fans will get burnt out on them.
No, you're right. And I think it was the reverse effect back then. I think when you look at how many, I'm not saying there aren't stars, because stars is a relative term.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have all these people releasing albums, they were releasing albums every year because they didn't want to be forgotten. I mean,
True.
You look at music in the 70s, and you've got, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Paul McCartney, Elton John, Billy Joel, Van Morrison. I mean, these guys are all releasing albums at the same time. I mean, these are Hall of Fame artists all releasing albums competing with each other. So if you wanna stay in the public mind, you have to keep going. Otherwise, you're going to end up on the side of the road like you're, like Supertramp, who is one of my favorite artists of all time. But they had two albums, and they never. You would know some songs by them too if you heard them.
Yeah, I'm sure I would.
But they are awesome. But they had like two albums, and then they just kind of fell out of the mix. Like, it was, we're going to start releasing an album every 3 years, and it's like,
yeah,
then we're just going to stop making albums.
And nowadays, artists remain relevant by social media.
Absolutely. And you did not have that.
No.
At all.
And it's kind of crazy, like, when you think about it, because nowadays the artists feel much more reachable.
Yes.
Because we're able to see into their personal lives. We get to see what their wives and girlfriends and kids look like, and what they're doing on a day-to-day basis, what they're cooking for dinner, or, what we get to go see them visit a radio station, and play for a small little crowd there.
It sounds like you doing an explanation of what you did with what you were watching with Rob Thomas today.
Don't judge me.
His wife, his kids.
He doesn't have kids.
Okay.
But back then, with the artists that Eric's talking about, they're considered icons because they were considered. Fans looked at them as being larger than life, like they were just out of reach.
Yeah, that's very true.
And nowadays, it's really the exact opposite. And also back then, I don't think artists really did like meet and greets with fans.
No, I mean, I can't say that. I obviously wasn't around for most of these albums I'm listening to. But
yeah, but it's not something you've really heard about.
No, I can't imagine that it would have. I can't imagine you could connect that way. I mean, that's why, when you get an opportunity, you see a thing with Ben Folds, it's like you can do a meet and greet. And one of my buddies is like, yeah, but you might be able to meet Paul McCartney. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, when the hell am I going to meet Paul McCartney? Like, walking down the street one day, hey, Paul, how's it going? Like, it's not going to happen. Or the money to do that would be ridiculous. But
right.
It is. Like, if you would have told me that you could be on a podcast with one of your favorite artists and you're just asking them questions, like it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, back then you used to have to stalk hotels and do your homework and to know like what name they stayed under at the hotels. Again, You can see a perfect example of this in the movie Almost Famous, which I'm determined to get Eric to watch. But nowadays, I mean, you can, so usually like after a show, depending on how big or small the venue is, you can go outside and kind of like hang around. If you see like where you see like the buses and stuff, or like the back door, sometimes you'll get a glimpse of the artist, and depending on who they are or how drunk they are or whatever, you might be able to get a like, hey, can I just get a quick picture? As long as you're not like making a huge deal and like so that there ends up being like a huge crowd like that notices them, it's usually okay. But sometimes you don't have that option either. I mean, we've been fortunate to pay, where we've met a couple country artists because we happened to see them walking into or out of their bus as we were leaving the venue. But yeah, it's definitely a different culture these days. And some of it's great, like we said, meet and greets, you feel a lot closer to the artist. You feel like you know them. They're reachable. But at the same time, does it take something away? Like, does it take that spark away that used to be with the older artists? You know what I mean? Like, do we still have rock stars these days?
No, I mean, we don't even have. I think you can't. I mean, I hate to bring this up because I know you'll get off on a sidetrack about this, but I will bring up Taylor Swift against my will. But when you see somebody's able to sell out a stadium of that size,
mm-hmm.
there are still rock stars. It's just a different game than it used to be. It used to be, I think from a promotional standpoint, it's a lot easier. I can't imagine, like trying to figure out, and I guess I'd have to ask my parents, like, Paul McCartney's on tour. How did you even know? Like, I imagine on the radio they would say, he's coming to Chicago, but you'd have to go line up at the arena or whatever to get the tickets.
Right.
But I mean, if it's a more obscure artist or something, I don't even think more obscure artists could have survived as much. I mean, all the artists that these new up and coming artists that you bring up every week, which is cool because I'm trying to find some new ones to listen to against my will. I have enough albums to get caught up on, but I don't think they could have survived without the promote. It's easier with Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and everything else to get everything out more.
Yep, not to mention YouTube channels.
YouTube channels too.
That has changed the game entirely. There are artists who have solely gotten noticed and recognized and gained their stardom just because they posted some cover songs on YouTube, the YouTube videos of them doing cover songs. Kane Brown, John Langston, Tyler Braden, I believe, is one who we mentioned earlier in one of our earlier episodes of the podcast. Justin Bieber. I mean, it's in every genre. I mean, technology has just changed the game for music completely.
Yep, I 100% agree.
So I guess, I'm sure we could continue to go on more rants.
I think this also yields a possible part 2 in the future.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we covered a lot, and I think we've given people a lot to think about. Did either of you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I think I got through. Hopefully the stuff I suggested for somebody that wants to get started in vinyl, at least to get a good handle on where to get started and where you can pick up easy supplies and everything else. Hopefully that helps somebody out there, because I know when I first got started, I was kind of swimming on my own and asking. It's funny, you go and ask your parents because they're the ones that actually know how to take care of this stuff. Like, Dad, how do I change a record needle? Because I have no idea. Like.
And they've got to kind of feel like that's got to make them feel good. Like, oh, look, like now I get to show you something, as opposed to us showing them how to do something on the computer.
Yeah, we used to do trade-offs. There used to be like record tips for how do I get my pictures off my iPhone onto my computer. So
if I had $1 every time a parent asked me, one of my parents asked me that.
Yep.
Yeah, and so if anyone listening has any questions about the supplies or where you can get the supplies that Eric mentioned for their vinyl collection, you can email strikingachordofficial@gmail.com, and I will get the answers from him for you in case you missed them on the podcast, or you can just go back and re-listen. That's always a good option. And then, so I think that about wraps up this episode. Thank you for joining us for it, Eric. It was great to catch up with you and talk music, as always.
Thanks very much for having me. Like I said, I haven't gotten through the glam rock one completely.
That was a long one.
I paused it at half because I had to go to work. But I do have the second half to listen to, and like I said, keep up the good work. It's an awesome show.
Thank you. And then, so next week, we're going to have my girl Annie from the Shotgun Seat back on, because her and I are going to dig into the new Rob Thomas album, which comes out this Friday, April 26th. And we're also going to dig into his solo albums. There are 3, The Great Unknown, Cradle Song, and Something to Be. So we will be gushing about Rob Thomas for that almost entire episode. But we'll also have new music as well. There's a ton of stuff that comes out on April 26th. So I hope you guys stay tuned to Striking a Chord Facebook page, as well as TBK Magazine's Facebook page. I will be keeping you guys in the loop with all the new music that's released as it's coming out. And then also, if you are on Instagram, you can check out, or you can follow Striking a Chord on there as well. And also, we will have our interview with Tiara, that bonus episode, up by the time you hear this. And Rich is laughing at me.
I am.
And we've got the shows scheduled and lined up and figured out for well into like middle end of May. So there's all kinds of awesome content coming for you guys to listen to. And go to Apple Podcasts and rate us 5 stars preferably, but whatever you think we're worthy of, and give us a review. Send your comments or emails, questions, whatever, to strikingachordofficial@gmail.com or on our Facebook page, and let us know how you think we're doing, if there's anything you want to hear more of or less of, whatever the case is. And yeah, so until next time, happy listening.